It's like Jeopardy music. That's true. We really do. Woohoo! And all right.
Stereo Newman.
Welcome, misfits, to this episode of Midnight Ranting. Our god Deniers missing out. Ugh.
It's not quite midnight yet, but almost.
Where tonight we are asking ourselves the question, does us not believing in a deity somehow mean we're missing out on important aspects of life? So come join James W. and myself, Amy Newman, for some fun that can't be missed. Woohoo! Woohoo! I want to thank everyone out there for joining us on the intertubes. If you've gotten your vaccine or booster shot, this is now the time to activate your 5G. Love it when it connects easy. But
Getting Monday Night Football on that thing too?
Monday. I think so. Good enough reception.
Yep.
I just gotta go. Just like Moses, I have to keep my hand up though, or else the reception goes down.
Well, that might be a problem, you keeping both of your hands up for very long. Yeah.
That's right, baby. Shake weights. If you're feeling fancy, don't forget to like, follow, or subscribe.
Subscribe.
And hit that bell icon so you can get reminders to join our live streams. We are a skeptic channel, including the two schmucks you see before you.
Jesus is canceled.
Oh, man.
Cancel Jesus.
I think they'd say that happened 2,000 years ago. Picky.
But the deity came back the very next day.
They telling us he's coming back. I don't know when, but
could be a matter of minutes.
Any day now.
Any minute now.
But yes, after the short video in which we will get to hear the other side, we will be opening up the floodgates, or rather the open mic, so you can tell us what's on your mind. Hada. We will give everyone the chance to have their own opening and closing statements. Atheist or conservative, liberal or conservative, come as you are, just... the sheets. I just washed the sheets. Are you really gonna...
The flag would be a better target.
I guess on the flags.
Yeah.
You can also find our Patreon page at patreon.com/Amy Newman, which helps us make even more fun content, including our little, I like to think, housekeeping. I have to do like a little housekeeping thing like Sam Harris, like a graphic thing before. With our awesome Patreons, because we love them so much. In fact, we are sending love out to K.O. Chan. In fact, Thor Love and Thunder coming out soon, baby. Hell yeah. But yes, not only Co-Champ, but also Oz from the Atheist Roundtable and Networking Group.
Oz.
Tang gang, yo.
You're missing out on the myth, I guess, apparently.
Hashtag
missing out on the myth.
Jesus is a myth.
Jesus.
They got Oz convinced. They got James convinced. I'm kind of like, can you just tell me why prophets would even exist in the first place? I'm never going to stop being hung up on that. Hashtag why prophets. But yes, sending love to Oz.
Thank you, Oz.
And also Ian Northport. Boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
Oh, 1-up. I need to get it. Yes, I got it.
You got it?
I got it. Thank you, Ian. And also
Ian.
thank you. As we
Be
listen
on
to
Facebook any minute.
Christmas, I know. We need to start really posting, or at least I need to start posting really some heavy memes, some
On
fat
Facebook?
memes on Facebook. I try to post, some non-believer
Just make memes all day.
and stuff in our Skeptic and Ranting Facebook page. Come on and join us.
Not everybody can be Titan Uranus and spend hours a day making memes, but
memes.
It's a labor of love. He does it well. So
love. It's important business here on the internet.
Absolutely.
That is our currency. We trade in memes. But yes, not only that, we are sending
internet
love.
memes.
Internet memes. Oh Godfrey, he's our third host. We every once in a while we just drag him on. He just loves the Bible so much. He
can't get enough of it.
erotica. I was like, whatever you're into, Gilbert, you do you. But yes, when we're listening to creationist claims, it makes us go, damn you, YouTube censors. We're just trying.
You're missing out on all the bada. You're missing out.
Damn you, or NSA, or FBI, though those wouldn't censor things, but I'm going to shout at you anyway with my
Don't forget NASA. I gotta throw NASA in there.
Right.
There.
We are NASA shills.
Top tier of the reptile Illuminati space alien lizards. Who also, like Jesus, they're gonna take over the world any day now. I mean,
does that
any
mean
day
Jesus was born a lizard? He'd have to be. If they were all lizards, that means Jesus would have had to have been a lizard. Lizard.
I mean, at that point, what is a lizard? Aren't we all lizards?
Aren't we all?
Are we all lizards? How do you know you're not a lizard in a vat with a computer telling you you're human, but you're really a lizard? I don't know.
My God, it's true.
Doesn't it make sense?
Matrix is real. We're all lizards. But
that's what T-Jump said.
Thank you,
Grumpy.
T-Jump said we're all lizards? I was watching him go up against
against who?
Pre-supper, and I found the best, one of my new favorite methods of handling a pre-supper is to just claim that you are God. And that, yes, you are revealing your message to the person right now. You've been presupposing me the whole time.
What is your everything, Amy? What is the foundation that binds everything and makes everything possible is you?
Yeah, can the pre-supper prove that I'm not God? I mean, I'd like to figure out how. But yes, sending love to grumpy old
Grumpy.
And also, as we gather the more women in the skeptic community, woohoo! Sending love to Diana Smith.
Diana Smith, the woman in the skeptic kitchens. Do they do that? Do they have that on the skeptic side? I don't think so.
Well, on the skeptic side, we kick the men into the kitchen. That's also sexist, but it's okay. No. Well, I'm actually pro anybody getting into the kitchen.
Anybody in the kitchen,
a good sandwich, exactly.
Make mean instant pouch mashed potatoes. Those are really good. Yeah, the Gordon Ramsay of instant potatoes.
Oh, instant potatoes.
Oh, poor Moonlight almost. Now, if he would have fell down, he would have just played it off like they always do. Like, what? I didn't fall. I didn't fall. I did that on purpose. I meant to do that.
I say the exact same thing when I walk into objects. I'm just like, I was testing. Walk into the wrong exit. That's also what he was saying. That's no exit.
Walk into a table and kick the table because it jumped out and attacked you.
was like, oh, meant to do that. I was just, testing the durability. Yeah. But yes, sending love also to Pat. Oh, we got Pat. Pat Lowinger.
Pat Lowinger.
We are already in pre-production, I believe, for episode 4. But you should go check out episode 3 of Talk Skeptic to Me, the show where we actually get experts and people with experience to tell these two schmucks a thing or two. And it has been great. We just took an archaeological examination of sacredness.
Yeah. I mean,
go check that out.
It's really hard on our end. We got people like Dr. Josh, Dr. Jim, who spend years studying the history, the subjects, the regions that they study in. We've got Pat, who goes overseas and digs in archaeological sites to try to find artifacts, try to prove what happened in the past and how things were. That's a lot of work. I mean, just how much easier would it be, Amy, if you just had to just open up this one book and that's it? That's it. You don't have to go out, dig. You don't have to spend years studying history and all that. No. Just read the Bible and hand your money over to the pastor.
There you go. Look, James, whenever you got a question, they got a book for that.
An ancient book, yeah, of course.
Ancient book. Not saying you can't find anything in that book. That's the other straw man.
I mean,
it's not like you can't find anything, but
the articles are not bad,
for
I guess.
Scripture, for a holy book, you would think the bar would be kind of, I don't know. You'd think, I'm being generous, B, C work, if we don't even fail this God, you would think that would be okay. But
you would think it
would be amazing.
It would have. You would think it would have something maybe slightly above what Iron Age or Bronze Age man was coming up with, but when everything in the
amazing morality, like it would be like we'd be still mining through it, trying to figure out how amazing it was, which I'm sure that's what they're saying we're doing, but it wouldn't be like, oh, look, they endorse slavery. It would be like, how did they know 3,000 years ago when everyone else in the area was doing slavery? How did this one guy...
This one religion said, don't do it. It's cruel, it's unnecessary, it's just wrong to do. Don't do it. And then we could look back and say, whoa, that book was like thousands of years ahead of everybody else. It must be divinely inspired. But when it's on par with all the other books and religions, kind of makes you think,
The deity should not be getting a C. Like, in terms of all of these. How'd you do on morality? Don't check the Old Testament. That was his teenage stage.
When the Bible does say things like, Paul says not to beat your slave too harshly, and then Jesus says that if a slave was ignorant of what his master wanted him to do, well, he still gets beat for it. You still hit him, but you give him a lighter beating. You don't beat him, you don't crack his head open and keep beating him until he's dead. You just give him a light smack around. Because he didn't know, but he still fucked up.
It's the good kind of slavery. In fact, it's really a jobs program.
Right.
Really a jobs program.
There you go.
But yes,
the Bob.
Also sending love. We're just trying to bring all of the skeptics together. So you think...
Bob Larson?
Bob Larson. That's right. It's true. I don't have an impression of Bob. I was about to do Kent Hovind's thing for Bob Larson, but Bob Larson's impression is just...
He's got his cross out there like this, and
But we're also asking... I wish I could see you. We're also asking for a little bit of empirical evidence, or at least That's kind of what Dale Pastel and the rest of us skeptics are
That would
trying to
be
bring
the
together.
goal. It would be nice.
Just a little bit.
I mean,
and the other thing is, why does that seem to be the only thing you can't produce? Everything else, no, we can go into philosophy, we can go into faith, we can go into personal experience, but when it comes to actual empirical evidence, that's the one thing we can't seem to find any of for a god.
Can't do it. Yeah. It's like going to a restaurant, ordering a steak or something, and then your plate comes out and it's got like 2 Vienna sausages on there. You know? You want real evidence, you get anecdotal stories, you get ancient legends, you get vague philosophical tropes.
And it makes wonderful sausage.
There you go.
Yeah, and it's nothing you can actually put in a lab. It's always an experience that happened to them. It is never something they talk about genes, like John Maddox will talk about genes, but supposedly it is the experience of being able to live after facing death that changed his mind. So if that is the reason for your faith, that is really all you should be talking about. Like everything, the whole gene stuff, completely irrelevant. Like it's basically a shtick, if anything, to hide the real reason. Like I'm not hating on him because I would like to spread this brush out for anyone who doesn't defend their actual reason. It doesn't matter if you're even good at it. That tends to be, his shtick. I'm trying to think of others because I'm thinking of William Lane Craig with Kalam, but But does William Lane Craig believe in Jesus Christ because of the Kalam cosmological argument?
I don't know.
For the existence of God.
I've never heard anyone ask him that, or if they did, if he would give a answer that made any sense to anybody.
I would like to know, because it may be the shtick that he peddles. I think it's going to be on his grave. But I would be very surprised if that is the actual reason why he thinks Jesus came back from the dead and is the Lord and Savior. Could be, but the Muslims who formulated the argument in antiquity and possibly even Plato or whatever, they didn't believe in the same God as you. Had completely different concepts, or not Plato, Aristotle. Either way, so if you're going to defend
you would
the
say they
deistic
can't
God,
learn.
Be a deist.
You would say they can't learn, but they've learned, because every time they tried to give empirical evidence or anything that could be falsified, what do you think happened to it? It was falsified. So now they only deal in unfalsifiables. If it could be falsified, they don't present it. They ignore it. They only present arguments that are unfalsifiable. You can't test it. You can't prove it. You just have to believe it or you don't.
Yeah, well, it's basically trying to sell your argument, trying to convince people that your premises are true. I mean, you can accept the premises and you can hope the conclusion is true because you believe that you put in true premises. But, I mean, to actually verify it, you then need to take your hypothesis into science land and do the fuck around and find out part of science.
Like Farron says, just look at the trees. That kind of evidence we get.
We really do.
Trees. Look at the tatas. Look at the piles of dog shit. I mean, there are beautiful things in nature, and there are disgusting, horrible things in nature.
They always they pick out the one thing. Look at this amazing waterfall.
Look at the cancer ward.
Yeah, and you could flip anything around. A beautiful waterfall is amazing.
Dale Pastel in the chat.
Freezing of hypothermia, and it's not so good. Everything's context and all this. Woohoo! What is up, Dale? And that's so right. I mean, hey, like I said, Dale, all of us skeptics, We're just asking for a little bit of empirical evidence. And if
Little
you're
bit.
going to say that is cheating, or why does your God have to tiptoe to little underlings like you? Well, I guess they don't, but then they don't get a personal relationship. I don't know what to tell you. I've had dates before. The dates I have take me out to dinner. Get on it, Yahweh. Time's ticking. Don't know what to tell you.
Yeah. He should start his own Uber Eats service and just
Start your own Uber
manifest
Eats.
the food right in your place there. You know.
I know. Then they'll say like he's timeless, spaceless, zero fat. I mean, okay,
Shitless.
cool. I know, but if God is timeless, then literally there is no amount of time not worth spending with all of your people. You could spend. It's not meaningless because you don't have anything else to do. You're doing it all, and you're not doing it. It just creates so much absurd paradoxes as well that I'm sure Doctor Who and lots of other things have explored. Just come on down, though. But speaking of awesome people, like Dale and also Dave
Gar.
Woo-hoo! Because that Earth, I don't know, it looking a little thick. I can't believe how much pushback. I swear, it's this weird Wild West internet age. It's going to be like, must be like everyone is realizing we have fast internet, so, and they're like, hey, flat Earth maybe, but then hopefully things pile back off and we go back to...
I mean, that Earth is looking as thick as Creflo Dollar's wallet.
Boom, boom, boom. Man, the prosperity gospel. I'll tell you, there's nothing that brings people together like prosperity gospel, because
what did he
atheists
say?
And theists alike can both go, that's bullshit.
What did he say? Like the gospel, it's not just about money, but it's about money.
And that video that we watched between Pat Robinson and
Kenneth Copeland,
Kenneth Copeland, like
Beelzebub and Belial.
It was like watching two rich men bathe in poor people's money.
Basically bragging about how rich they are. Like, wow, this is a really big check, Kenneth. I wish it could be 10 times more than that. Well, you know what, Kenneth Copeland? I'm sure you could make it 10 times more than that, and you'd still be a multimillionaire. So, you know, what did you give? $1 million? You could easily give 10 million, and you would still have only like 300 million in the bank. So.
Oh, I know. And then you don't. Are you really gonna leave him with 300 million? Are you really gonna leave him starving, almost homeless at 300 million?
He is in his 80s. I guess he's either going to be cryogenically frozen and kept with his money, or maybe he made a deal with God where he can take it with him to heaven.
Gosh, if you're making that kind of deal, I'm pretty sure you're deal. Well, I don't know. I don't even want to shit on Satan. I'm sorry, Satan. They've been shitting on you for so long. They've been doing you wrong, my bro. Yahweh has the much higher kill count. So you're right. Probably would have had to made a deal with God for that one.
Kenneth Copeland and Pat Robertson digging up those streets of gold and trying to pawn off the gold for more money. Making potholes in heaven.
Making potholes in heaven, exactly. As the sweatshop people around the world who don't believe in their religion make their merchandise. But yes! Woohoo! Send in so much love!
Dave Gar.
Dave Gar!
And Kenneth Copeland, Pat Robertson.
And Kenneth Copeland, who does
Creflo Dollar, Joel Osteen.
That I don't believe in. But if I was casting...
If there was going to be one, he would be top contender.
Bill. Yeah, absolutely. And
even better than Joaquin Phoenix,
who is a fantastic dramatic actor.
Yeah.
Woo-hoo. I started doing open mics around the same time that Joker came out. Coincidentally, it wasn't like, oh, I'm going to be edgy now, because just a good time. Hopefully my comedy, hopefully the careers and Jesus, I'm gonna forget.
Someone wants to
Arthur's.
know if you can juggle, Amy.
And I can juggle. I can, just not with objects that aren't attached to bodies. But yes. All right, Lordy. Look at you. Here.
Yeah, look at Moonlight there. Meow.
Okay. Oh, my fairy baby. But yes, also to the lead hyena of the... I go like this, they walk right back over.
Yeah.
To the lead hyena of the pack. Woohoo! And we love hyenas here. I will say it over and over and over. All of Carnivora. Oh, look, you
Over and over and over.
You learned from Penelope. Look at you. Good boy.
Does she have another cat over there?
Yes.
Okay.
And also, cat kind, hyena, Scott
Duke. He's thinking about jumping on that shelf, Amy, back there.
Yeah.
He was thinking about jumping up there, but you got the props there, so he's afraid to. Yeah.
He's thinking about it. It's okay. We're living life. We're living large. Cats, dogs, all pets, all carnivora. If you're the pet, no matter what, we allow you on the podcast. We're very friendly. I will say, and I say this as often as I can, it's one of the things I dislike about some forms of creationism is they really look down on other animals. Keyword, other, because we are animals. And
the guy in the subject of today's video, I don't think it's in this video, but in other videos we're going to get to see, he does that exact trope.
Really? Oh, I know. I think he does. He says something in there that bothered me, similar to that. But yeah,
why are humans the only animals that can love?
Yeah,
it's like you don't think other animals can have that love? Okay. You go and you try to mess with, you go in that alligator nest and you start messing with the baby alligators with mama or papa alligator around, and you go see what's going to happen.
Exactly. You tell them.
You better run, because they are not going to be happy with you, because they do not want you messing with their babies.
You see love across the animal kingdom. That's not even all
over.
So that is ridiculous. No. That is absolutely, that is stupid.
The cat kind, the dog kind, they take care of their young. Giraffes, kangaroo, they all take care of their young.
Mammals in general.
Even some reptiles do.
That we take care of our young. There's a bond relationship where the young learn before, and pack animals and all this sort of exactly
right.
And they will often say, how could you lower yourself to that? And it's no. It's that you put yourself up here and them down here. Right. And all of us, raise the other animals up here because we just realize how awesome all of life is. Life is freaking amazing.
We're not a special category because we're made in the image of God.
And
all the other animals are less than us because they're not made in God's image.
There's a hierarchy. We're number one, and then it just goes down from there. Like we're a goal.
Some rodents, some animals do eat their young. It's not that all animals have evolved that nurturing aspect, but it is definitely present in the animal kingdom.
Things in nature.
There's some humans
because
humans kill their young sometimes. It happens.
Terrible things happen, and yes, sometimes. Trying to think what the right word is. Nature is actually a cold bitch, not either good or bad. And so if you want to look for the good and bad, you see love over here. I mean, is it sad that the wolf has to break the goat's neck? It's not really a bad guy. It's just doing what it's doing. And so it's all context. But there's plenty of... You can easily find a lot to love in nature and not have to look down on any of it.
We tend to identify more with the animals that are more like us. Like if you're driving by and you see videos of like a snake trying to attack like a goat or some type of mammal, your instinct is to want to help that mammal that's about to get eaten. Even though in doing that you're, ruining the snake's dinner, but that's the instinct. But that on the same token, when we find a snake in the bogs or in the swamps covered in ticks, our instinct is to take the snake out and pull the ticks off, because we at that point identify more with the snake than the ticks, even though the ticks are just animals looking for a meal too. They're not evil, but
you're sympathetic.
We value the snake's life more because it's more like us, I guess.
Exactly. Well, we have empathetic regions in our brain, and we begin to put ourselves in that situation, even as a snake. And you could say, I wouldn't want that. You don't want to be bit by the snake, but in that situation, just like you're saying, sympathy changes. And all right, moving right along.
Almost done.
I think I'm going to make a graphic. I'm going to be like the house cleaning / love for Patreons graphic, but also our lovely thespian skull when we are reading the Bible. Go check out
Mama Bear. Nope.
Regos. Woohoo! Because the Bible likes to get a little thespian when they're, killing people and waging war and
Carpathian,
all that fun stuff.
Gothic.
Oh, thou shalt not shove things up thy butt. Oh, thank you, God. And last, but certainly not least, send in love to Rachel. Woohoo! Da, 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 da. The actual good kind, the only good kind of slavery is DNS.
Newman slavery.
The Newman slavery. No, it's right, because at least with DNS you have consenting adults. And with the biblical slavery, you have like actual humans as property. You have people that were like, no, you own me and my children and you won't let me go, and kind of beat me if I don't pick the fields for you. Oh, but it's not the transatlantic slave trade. Oh, no, actually, it was kind of exactly the transatlantic slave trade. It just so happens that, some Christians were like, hey, we're going to go against our Bible and be abolitionists. I'll give them credit for that. You came to your senses eventually.
Cognitive dissonance.
Good job. Yeah, cognitive dissonance. Well, it is. It's cognitive dissonance and it's selective reading. Just don't read that passage. But James, it was the Old Testament.
He's a God of love, remember?
A God of love. Exactly.
He's also a God of war, but,
Oh, picky. And all right, going to be sending love to everybody in chat. We are going to be going into our open mic after our opening statements and the opposing viewpoint, but
no, Brian, that would be the God of the Hebrews, the God of war, which he declares himself in Exodus to be a God of war.
He does. He calls himself a God of war. I was like, really? You're going 300 on us? I mean, you do you, man. I'd actually rather you not, but whatever. Anyway, are God deniers missing out? I mean, what do we have to live for if there's no creator of the universe? Well, a lot, actually. Family, friends, and loved ones are a good start. So it's achieving an accomplishment or reaching a goal. And if nothing else, have you tried cheesecake? I don't know, but there's nothing intrinsic that we seem to need a God. Hell, there seems to be more things one misses when cowtailing to a deity. For example, if your holy book says don't eat bacon, my suggestion would be to pick a new holy book. However, if your God says to stone gays to death, not only do you need a new God, but you should go tell him to go screw himself. Because that dude is nothing but a bad influence. A whole bunch of trouble, if you ask me. And the people he's drowned. Or at least they would answer you. But they were too busy drowning. Anyway, do I need a God to enjoy looking at the trees? Can't I just enjoy their beauty? Marvel at the process of life. Bite into an apple, close my eyes, and stretch my feet. I don't think so. So when someone asks questions like, are God deniers missing out? I can firmly say, no. Not only are we not missing out, but without a deity, we can enjoy life without being tethered to superstition. We can do things for the sake of being good, because it fills our bodies with joy seeing others happy. As a non-believer, we know this is the one and only life we're going to get, and that now is the only time to live. Thank you. Woohoo! And
fill Amy with joy.
That's right, baby. We'll consider it a cream filling. But yes, with that, how are you tonight, James? And what do you think? Have we been missing out?
I mean, I guess apparently we have been, but then the question comes to missing out on what? Missing out on a delusion? Missing out on getting to think that there's an ultimate grand purpose in life, that there is some top-down enforced purpose in life? I mean, that seems to be what the Christians want and what theists want. But I mean, let's really look at that for a second and say, is it all that good? And I don't think that it is. If Christianity is true, then what's the purpose of life? What's the meaning of existence? Well, I mean, the grand plan of all this is to die and go to heaven so you can praise God forever. So you can sit in heaven, just like the Bible says, and literally praise him forever. I mean, I don't know about you, but I would like nothing more than just to sit there and say, God, you're so great. God, I love you. You're the best God ever. You're such a great God. You did such a great job with creation. I mean, doesn't that sound like the funnest time in the world? It is. And you can spend eternity doing nothing but that. And you're not going to be tempted to drink a beer, watch porn, or say anything naughty, because God is going to take away your free will so that the only thing you will ever want to do is to tell him how great he is. Because free will at the end wasn't really all that important anyway. It is just a temporary aberration from you're created, you have free will for a little bit of time. I mean, depending on which interpretation of Christianity use. Some strains of Christianity don't really believe in a true free will, but some of them do. But regardless, none of them would say that after this life is over, you retain that free will, because the Bible says that once we get to heaven, once we get there, we'll never sin again. Well, if we sin on earth because of our own free will, then if we're unable to sin up there, then that must mean that our free will is taken away. And we're always told that God doesn't want people like robotic zombies just to tell him he loves us. But actually, I mean, in heaven, that's kind of what it's going to be. It's a bunch of zombified people telling God how great he is. And but I guess it's going to be fun because he'll make it so that you love every minute of it. You love every minute of telling him how great he is, because guess what? He's a lot more powerful than you. He's a lot more stronger than you. He can do whatever he wants. He can roast you alive forever, because religion is the ultimate might makes right. If he wants to flood the world, he gets to flood the world. What are you going to do about it? If you disagree with his morality, oh well, he's still God. He will still gleefully roast you alive forever. So, I don't think we're really missing out on all this. We get one life, like Amy said, that we know that we get. And do you really want to waste that, to squander that little time that you get to exist, that maybe 80 to 100 years? And by the way, a lot of people get way less time than that. And in terms of the scope of human history, probably most people got way less time than that. Go back 1,000 years where, people living to their 50s were very rare. It was rare that people would live that old. And we didn't get there. We didn't get to extend human life by following holy books and using blind faith. We got there through science, through application of the scientific method. We've been able to extend human life a lot longer, and that's good, but it's still a very short amount of time. And don't squander what little time you get on these pie-in-the-sky delusions about getting to live forever, which you have no evidence for. There's no reason to think it's true. And every logical and reasonable indication is that it's just the babblings of ancient man. So we're not missing out on anything except delusion, which I'm happy to miss out on being deluded.
Mm-hmm. And all right, thank you so very much, James. Woohoo!
We got Jen in the house, Church of Entropy.
What is up, Jen?
Doorknob, Farron. God equals the square root of -1.
And all right, with that, we are now going to hear a view from the other side, or rather,
Mark.
someone. Hi, Mark. Oh, hi, Mark. I feel bad. He probably gets the oh, hi, Mark. At least there was probably like a big bump of it during the whole, can't even remember that craze.
He actually is the mark of the beast. So that is actually
dun.
Yeah, that's actually him.
But yes, while we're playing the video, feel free. Oh, hey, Mark.
And Amaretto is the official mother of the Antichrist.
I was going to say mother of dragons, but yes, she could be that too.
She could be.
But you can feel free to tag me at Amy Newman in chat, and we can show your comments up on the screen. What is up? God equals the square root of -1.
Oh.
Before we open it into the open mic, so you could tell us about all the wisdom that we have been experiencing tonight. But with that,
I mean, this is a short video, but the wisdom is going to come at you like a fire hose, like rapid fire wisdom, like machine gunning out. Like Amy Newman shooting blanks.
Oh, baby.
He's got his mouth open there like he's ready to catch
I know. Look at that. He's ready.
He's ready, Amy.
He's ready. And with that, so are our bodies.
I'm saying that the atheist is missing out.
As we go further, are God deniers missing out? Oh,
Missing out on his video.
that's what I get. Okay. Try this. Come on, Jesus. Got to put the Jesus juice in.
Jen, pray to the universe.
I'm saying that the atheist is missing out.
Oh, lordy.
Lordy, lordy.
Lordy, lordy. Okay.
I'm saying that the atheist is missing out. Think of it like
there we go.
looking at the great Leonardo da Vinci painting Last Supper,
Okay,
but through the eyes of a dog.
What?
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Bruckler Show again. Look, one of the things that we talk about so much is how the atheist mindset is so destructive. But I also want to talk about how the atheist is really missing out.
Also, I love how that's just one of his normal talking points. If you've just joined us, you know how I often talk about how atheists are so destructive. Oh, thank you.
How many camera angles does he have? He's got like 4 cameras, so you can see him in profile and the front.
I was gonna say
they have like a top-down camera.
I did some looking up on this guy, and he looks like he is from a professional studio, even though he's really just a nobody like us.
He is a nobody like us.
The reason that looks like that is because he's a lawyer who happens to shill for a lot of social, religious, conservative causes. But
he's got a lot of money.
Missing out on so much of the beauty that the world has to offer. I'm not
Wait. No, I see it. No, it's okay. Look, I'm seeing it right now. Don't need a god. Wow.
It's very beautiful, yeah.
It's very beautiful.
I'm talking about God necessarily, but you cannot have...
Wait, I am not talking about God necessarily, but you cannot have beauty without God. Oh, so you are, okay. So you are talking about God.
Beauty without God. We've talked about this at length before as well. Look, there's an expression. It's like giving pearls to swine.
Common thing that we hear from Christians or creationists or whatever little brush I want to paint with is the throwing pearls to swine.
That's one of Mr. Batman's.
Which he's going to.
Mr. Batman quotes that scripture.
Does he? Yeah, no, it's a common one by them, which I think is kind of funny given how intelligent pigs actually are as creatures.
So, just to give a brief little thing to that, when your mind is looking at things and deciding beauty, your mind is trained to analyze data and information, and it's really looking for things that are safe and tranquil and that look very inviting and safe and happy, you know. And a beautiful thing like that, it just signals to your mind that this is a good place, this is a safe place, this is nothing bad is happening here. This is a place you can go and everything will be okay, versus looking at like a war zone where you say, I probably would try to avoid that. I don't see anything.
There are good evolutionary reasons for why we like pure water. Like
or love.
Try to reach things or love. And why we try to get away things that look contaminated or hostile.
Yeah. Like, look at a great, nice, big, juicy steak versus old, shriveled up, moldy, rotten, bad piece of steak. Which one looks better? Which one smells better? Which one tastes better? You know.
I hate to say it's not rocket science. It is built into us through a pounding of environment plus genetics.
What does that mean? It means that pigs will never appreciate beautiful.
How do you know that? How do you know that? What they can or can't appreciate?
This is exactly the type of mindset. Like he somehow makes, in explaining it, he somehow makes it worse.
Yeah.
Like we know what he's saying, and even his explanation somehow makes it.
That's like when Otangelo says animals don't have thoughts because you need language for thoughts. No. They don't have complex thoughts the way that we do, but they do have thoughts.
Like absolutely.
If I pick up the dog's leash and he sees it, he knows we're going out. He runs over to the door. they do have thoughts. They've even found out that birds can count up to at least like 7 or 8.
Birds are highly intelligent.
Birds can count. They may not know numbers, but they can keep track of 1, 2, 3, 4, doing an action a certain number of times and then getting food afterwards. They know when that food is coming. They can count.
Yeah. And of all animals, once again, pigs, highly intelligent,
very intelligent,
have been shown to be able to play video games with a controller. A pig can use a joystick.
Even octopus, how intelligent they are.
Octopus are also intelligent, which is weird because I think I don't know if it was, there was something like they have nerve fibers or in their tentacles. I have to look it up, but they are very, very intelligent as well. There's lots of other smart animals out there.
Dolphins, you can even make a case that the dolphin brain is even more efficient at processing data than our brains. Absolutely. Okay, the only thing is that evolution gave them fins, not hands, because they live in the water, and fins are very, very good for surviving in the water. They do just fine in the water, but they can't build anything. They can't make anything. They can't write.
That's the other thing they say. They'll be like, well, why isn't the dolphin going to the moon?
Right.
And it's like, well, first of all, I think we should start going back to the moon. How about that? But second of all, the dolphin's not trying to get to the moon. That is not their goal.
Doesn't care about that.
It doesn't care about that.
And the huge thing that we humans do with our language is it means we can transfer knowledge from one generation to the next, because people 1,000 years ago could write down what they learned, what they knew, and we can look at that today and we can see what parts of it are true, and we don't have to go and reinvent the wheel every generation.
Yeah. Actually, we live on the shoulder of giants.
Yeah.
Okay.
Beautiful pearls. That's the way it is,
pearls.
I think, in terms of appreciating what the world and what the universe.
Wait, James, does this look beautiful to you?
It does look beautiful, yeah.
Oh, damn. Man. It's 2 for 2.
I mean, look at that sun in the background. I mean, you telling me that's 93 million miles away? I mean, probably just hanging up there, maybe 20, 30 miles up.
I think the angels are keeping it up there. Makes much more sense.
Well, I mean, much nicer than angels building nuclear bombs. So, I mean,
universe has to offer to even the atheist. The atheist loves beauty. He claims to love music.
I love that. I love that he starts to say, yeah, he claims to love art. He claims to love music and beauty. I'm sorry. Could you disprove that? I like music. Objection. Okay.
Like all the atheist and agnostic musicians, like AC/DC and people like that, they don't know music because they don't believe in God.
I can't even imagine. Can you even imagine a song where they imagine no religion? I don't know. I feel like that's just silly. I don't know how you'd be able to do
I mean, he obviously was shilling. He probably really believed. He just wrote that song just to get silly atheists to buy the music or the records or the 8 tracks or whatever they had back then.
Also, by the way, A Perfect Circles cover, still my favorite version of it.
Buy Ken Hovind's DVDs while you're at it.
There it is. That's right. Have a lake of water.
Buy them. And also buy a second set and have them mail it to Big Screen Bird.
That's right. Did you know
Big
the
Screen
whale
Vegetarian Eagle
actually has a 15-foot whale, and we're moving forward.
Claims to love art. He claims to love entertainment.
What the hell? Like, I don't even understand. Like, you going full-on solipsist on us? You just telling us we're lying? A good story. Loves a good story.
Yeah, Amy. If we don't get to live forever, then none of it matters. None of it matters if we can't live forever.
If there's not all-powerful...
We're just going to die and go in the dirt.
Yeah, just going to be right in the ground. If there's not all-knowing, all-powerful, all-seeing creator of the universe, I mean, why even go to TGIF Fridays?
And this is along the lines of if there was no God, it would be a real bummer type of arguments, which is not really an argument. You're just saying you really, 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 really want there to be a God. That does not mean there really, 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 really is a God. You can want there to be a God as much as you want. It's not going to make a God be real.
You cannot will them into existence. The high will, if you're...
Me and Will are both in mourning because both of our teams got slaughtered yesterday.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
And
Ramen. Okay.
Yay.
a good story. But in reality, they shouldn't.
Okay. Two different claims. You're saying they claim they do, which means they do like it. You're just now saying why it... Whatever.
You
Go
shouldn't,
forward.
yeah, because if there's no God, then you shouldn't like any movies or art or beauty. You should just, there you go. Praise Titan Uranus.
Because all that is provided by way of God.
Oh.
Now, what do I mean by this? I'm saying that the atheist...
What does
The
he mean
words
by
that are
that?
just coming out of your mouth. I think you did just explain it, but okay.
is
That's
missing
what's
out.
called
Think of
a
it like
baseless
look
assertion.
at the great Leonardo da Vinci painting, The Last Supper,
All right.
but through the eyes of a dog.
I mean, it's a nice painting. It's a bunch of guys and a girl at a table in a room. I mean,
Yeah. No, it is a nice
painting, yeah.
Especially further back, you gotta give the less tools we had. Those at a medieval period. So I still had a decent amount of tools, but it's still an amazing painting. And once again, about to take a pot shot at other animals. You don't know. First of all, saying that the dog doesn't understand what is going on in a painting does not mean the dog has no sense of beauty. Does not mean that if you take them to somewhere that looks toxic and a lovely ballpark, they're not going to have different views on where they would like to be walking. Molten lava pit. We have to walk through the molten lava pits over here, or we could go to the national park over here.
Because I'm sure there are paintings of the Hindu gods or whatever that the Hindus probably find to be inspiring and beautiful. And while this is a nice painting, it doesn't mean that Jesus is real and that he had this supper with these people. It's just a fucking painting.
Well, he's not. I mean, it's even worse than that. He's just saying this painting exists and the dog can't comprehend it, therefore God. That really seems to be...
very low level.
Okay, well, tell us why. Why only we could have to comprehend such amazing...
Dog would have no sense of its beauty. To him, it's just a bunch of colors. It appears to represent some men, and that's about it. But that's the way, ultimately, the atheist would have to look at the world. The beautiful seas.
See, but a dog could appreciate this. That's why you didn't use this as an example, you asshole. Because this lady could have had him leashed over here. Whatever, doesn't matter.
The dog would be sitting there just having a good time next to his owner.
Yep.
Beautiful mountains and such, without appreciating how complex those mountains and seas have been.
Rocks and
And once again, you are the painting has had some complexity added by humans, but the planet is just nature. It just fell together that way. Yes, tides go in, tides go out. We may never know how that happens.
Oh, wait. We've known that for like 100 years now or so? Go figure.
I think when that happened, it was... I forget who. I think because he's been he got probably for good reasons. Me too. It was David Silverman who was on there. The David Silverman was taken back so much on that. I saw him blink that he didn't even comment. He just kept on. He either said something. He said something like, "We know how that," or he kept on going, and just oh man, a meme was born. But yes. We're going back to complexity of mountains.
Took to get there. More significantly, he cannot appreciate how incredible it is.
So everything's a he. I feel like the creationists are going to make me a feminist. Why everything?
There you go.
Is that all the stars lined up the way they did, that were perfectly adjusted next to the sun in a way that's in a Goldilocks orbit.
Whoa. Don't steal the skeptic's line here. Do you know why life exists on Earth? Because we're in the Goldilocks zone.
Puddle analogy.
Yeah.
But I mean, we can look at the stars and see constellations in the sky. Well, yeah. And they always stay the same. No, they don't. It's just that most of those stars are so far away that our motion relative to them is so slight that it would take hundreds of years to have noticeable changes to the constellations. But we do have constellations that have changed over the past 2,000 years that we know about. They were not put there just for us to mark seasons. They're just fucking stars. They're balls of gas billions of miles away. I mean,
exactly. Timescales don't work the way that creationists want them to work. I'm sorry, but things have to go past thousands. You have to leave the thousands number, and you need to go into the hundred thousands, the millions, and the billions.
We've never seen a star form, Amy. I want to, in one day, see a gas cloud condense and coalesce into a star and begin nuclear fusion and get that light, and I want to see it in a day, something that would take tens of thousands of years in nature to happen. I want to see that in one.
I want to see a model.
Yeah,
see a model for how you get a star. How about even one star, let alone the whole universe? God, I'm not saying it's billions, but
poof, star there, galaxy there, star there, poof, planet, poof, moon. Farting out these stars one by one. Yeah.
It makes sense. Makes sense, James. And I will say we're about 2/3 through the video, and then we are going to be opening up the open mic so you can tell us about all the wisdom you've been experiencing. And how much wisdom have we been experiencing?
Oh, what a relief.
We're not too close, not too far away.
Yeah, I wonder if that's the reason why we're here. I'm sorry. But the Goldilocks zones is one of my talking points. Like when they ask where we come from, after every atheist gets through the joke of our parents did the naughty, which is the actual true answer, is that you want to go back far enough and it's stars. It's that a star before our star died and supernovaed, and then gave rise to a second generation of planets and stars. And then from that, life formed. And then from that life, billions of years later, multi-celled organisms formed. And then 100 to 200,000 years, we came around, and the past few 10,000, whatever the fuck, we've been just complaining about how it's only been 10,000 years. But it hasn't. No, it's been a long. Things have happened before us. I know that we're really cool. We are like super awesome going and doing our things. It would be nice
if all this was for us.
But things happened. And consciousness, as much as I love consciousness, life was here way before consciousness.
So the Milky Way, one of the oldest galaxies we know of, it formed maybe just a few 100 million years after the Big Bang, which on cosmic timescales is not very long at all.
Yeah.
And so the Milky Way galaxy was around for about 14 billion years. And as of now, but our planet's been around about 4 billion years. So it took 10 billion years for stars to supernova and to create all those heavy elements that make up our bodies. So you need lots of heavy elements that are only created, usually created in supernovas or neutron star collisions, which are pretty rare. So you need a lot of those to make the heavy elements, gold, copper, those elements heavier than iron, silver that exist on this planet. And that doesn't happen overnight.
Doesn't happen.
If you just want to say, oh no, God poofed it and said, I'll put a copper vein there. We'll put some iron over here. We'll put a salt deposit over there. Maybe some nice shrubbery over here.
We'll let Becky win baseball over here, but we'll give Sarah cancer. Oh, it'll even out. I mean, this is.
But Amy, you did find your keys that one time, right?
I did
found your
keys.
Yep.
Someone might have had a car accident while I was trying to find my keys, but they'll walk it off, or they won't.
Alex Stein has a tiny penis, but at least he has a penis.
Exactly. We got to think of the positives, James. We got to think of the positives. But yes, if you just joined us, we are Midnight Ranting. We're asking the question, are God deniers missing out on all those big questions out there on life? I've been enjoying phase 4 of Marvel. I don't know. Feels pretty good to me.
And that's what we do on this show. We tackle the hard-hitting questions of life, like, is there any vodka cheaper than Popov? No? Okay.
To say nothing of the ozone. To say nothing.
You are. I mean, I hate to keep on like.
Yeah.
Play, pause. But he makes
every
so
sentence
many
something stupid
statements in such a little amount of time. Like,
so that's why we should be pumping as much CFCs into the atmosphere as possible so that the fossil fuel companies and chemical companies can make more profit.
One of the reasons why people oppose global warming is because they say if there was a really big deal, God would have taken it. And if not, that's the way God wanted it.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah,
God will fix it.
I think you're off the committee, Bob. I think we're going to need people to kind of come together and solve this one.
We know there's going to be a rapture in the Battle of Armageddon, so human population will not be threatened by an asteroid or climate change. It's pie in the sky. Just keep giving the billionaires everything and keep it moving.
Keep it moving. Keep it moving, James. Oh, man. Lots of wisdom. To say nothing of how all the vegetation on the planet is sufficient to give us all the... Are you really going to say that we have like the perfect amount? Yeah, a plant's purpose was to be born so we could eat it. That's exactly what it wants. Jesus.
Nothing of how all the vegetation on the planet is sufficient to give us all of our minerals and nutrients.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. The plants are here just for us. It has Bob and Lily written right there.
Because we evolved on this planet, so our bodies had to take what was available and figure out how to use those things. And what was available? Things in plants that we can eat.
Plants have also hijacked our systems. Like they have taken into fact that we are on their menu into account. There are plants that want to get eaten, so they will get pooped out by other animals.
The fruit,
that is how they get reproductive. And so it is
flowers use bees to reproduce.
It is not magic. It is literally, this is where nature has drawn things. You are eating the reproductive organs of another living organism.
Well,
to say nothing
as Bubba would say, the flowers sat there and thought, hey, wouldn't it be a good idea if we made this nectar shit? We get the bees to fly around and spread our pollen, and therefore we can reproduce that way.
There you go. Also, I can't help but say that we all need to get as much vitamin D, ladies and gentlemen, as possible.
Well, I get as much there.
Oh, I get as much vitamin D as I can, James, every day.
The vitamin D that we need. To say nothing of how we have
a forced perspective.
I was going to say, exactly. Another beautiful picture, a forced perspective. That's right. Make it look so she's bigger. Beautiful. I don't know, James. We've been playing our little game. Does that look cool to you?
I guess. It's not the most beautiful thing I've ever seen, but sure.
But yeah, but do you need to have a gun to understand what's going on in this picture?
You know, like the guys holding up the Leaning Tower of Pisa with their hand. Yeah.
I don't know.
An exchange, a deal between carbon that we spew out to the...
Looks beautiful. Clean air. Our brains think about things like clean air because we associate that's what they give back to us.
Amazing. The trees spew out.
We need to breathe oxygen, so therefore oxygenated air is good for us. The plants are fine with carbon in the air. They do just fine with it.
Exactly. It's also reactive, like fungi and animals had to react to plants because plants won the war of just having to sit still. Plants just have
They're
to
the
sit
most
still
dominant form of life.
and generate energy from the joke normally goes that the sun is pouring energy on us 24/7.
Mhm.
So we are a reaction. So when he says that, wow, isn't it amazing that we breathe in the oxygen? No, it is not amazing that we breathe in the oxygen. We have reinterpreted oxygen to be a good chemical. But oxygen is a rusting element. It is actually bad. You don't see it, but everything is taking giant hits in the environment right now. It's why your food goes bad when you do not cover it. So we are actually a reaction to the fact that plants transform the planet. They terraform the entire planet, and there was actually an oxidizing event that killed off all of the animals that could not breathe toxic. Yes. And so it is of no surprise that we have adjusted ourselves, and in fact, we are the species that has found something useful out of the harmful oxygen. Our bodies actually, and it becomes a cycle. We then give our what is it called? Carbon back to the trees. It creates a cycle, but it is not magic. Once again, if there is a theme that has been driven there by the environment and genes.
So you need a metabolic catalyst. You need something flammable that your body cells can burn to release energy. And evolution found oxygen kind of works for that. So we can burn things for energy in our cells, and the byproduct of that is carbon, which we spew out through our lungs. Which actually, like the breathing mechanism, the thing that compels you to breathe is much more associated with buildup of carbon in the body than with the lack of oxygen.
Really?
So
there you go.
So yeah, you can. That's why they proposed nitrogen asphyxiation as a more humane method of execution, because if you replace the oxygen with nitrogen, you won't be getting oxygen. But since you're breathing the carbon out, you don't have that same type of panic that you would have if you couldn't breathe or if you couldn't exhale. That's probably a foolproof way of killing people. I'm just saying that's how the body works, is that the buildup of carbon is the much worse problem the body wants to get rid of than the taking in oxygen.
Yeah. Just I don't understand how any of this so far. Have you seen any reason we're getting through
anything we're missing out on?
To not, yeah, I haven't found a single thing. He's basically pointing at just beautiful things, and like atheists can't enjoy this. It's like,
we do.
We do.
There's beauty in all of this, and yet the atheist cannot.
Wow, he answered. Thank you for answering my question. I wish I should go in the prophecy business, but thank you. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Nothing you witnessed could possibly have been enjoyed by an atheist, and by that I mean him being a douche.
Meaningfully appreciated any more than that dog can appreciate the Leonardo da Vinci painting.
No, you are switching back and forth. In fact, you've only used the painting once, and that is a very specific thing that maybe only organisms that can pass the mirror test could begin to even think about. Yeah, humans and maybe anything, a dolphin, an elephant,
chimpanzee. I think they can pass. They can recognize.
So maybe with the mirror test, but once again, you're asking a different thing. You can also enjoy a painting without knowing how to make a painting. So
that I just spoke about. To him, it's just a slab of colors that may or may not be recognizable as human forms, and that's about it. And so I put it to you, my dear atheist friend.
Okay.
You may very well be missing out.
No.
The believer appreciates all that it took to get there, just like we humans appreciate the extraordinary talent to finally get to something like the Last Supper.
Feeling heroic.
I'm Brock Lurie. Thanks for watching.
I mean,
we'll talk with you next week.
I consider
well, ladies and gentlemen,
the truth of finding empirical, testable reasons that work for why things are, as opposed to just arbitrarily saying God did it. You know?
Yeah. It doesn't answer anything.
It doesn't answer anything, and it's the antithesis of trying to answer anything, because it says, you know, tell all the scientists and everything to pack up and go home. We got it covered. God did it. Don't worry about it. Just drop to your knees and pray to God. Well, Amy's already on that one.
Oh, hey, I'm good on my knees, baby. And all right, we're about to be going into the open mic in a few seconds, so you could tell us about all the wisdom that we just experienced. But oh my goddess, I was telling James before this, it's a short video, but it feels like you ever eat like that one cookie and you turn around, it was like 1 billion calories. You're like, how did they even fit that many calories into this brownie? I felt like that is exactly what this was. Like
some of those like honey buns, like it's like a little tiny thing, like 600 calories. It's hardly anything, but it's just packed full of sugar.
And, just keep on packing it with all of the straw men that you could find, and I could not find a single reason, single reason he gave in that entire video.
What was even the point of that video? There's no point to it at all. He just showed pictures of things he finds pretty and just boldly asserts we can't appreciate it because we don't believe in God.
How could you possibly understand why trees are pretty if you don't have a guy watching you 24/7?
Yeah, it's like saying, you know, you can't appreciate being attracted to somebody you're attracted to because you don't believe in God, but you can rest assured that it does happen.
And furthermore, there's a lot you can lose by having a God that you then have to kowtow to everything that God wants. Apparently, because that's what it's never like, oh, I believe in a God, but he can go fuck himself. I would like to meet that thing. I think there's only one theist I've ever met that is like that, and that's that guy who was in the atheist and he wasn't, the maltheist.
Brett Keane.
Yeah. Like at least that's honest in your position. That's like, I believe it. And
he'll be back to being a Christian in a few months. Don't worry about it.
I wish I could have got him on the podcast just because he looked like someone who was searching. And I hadn't seen his old stuff.
I don't think he's a honest person, but yeah, I don't know. He's a douche, but that's just me.
But yes, I'm sending love. I sent the stream into chat. And I can see your comments again. Sending love to everybody.
Church of Entropy, Best
Church of Entropy, Titan Uranus, Samarino, Rachel, God Eagles, Carrier Ryan, Coffee, High Inquisitor. Everybody. I saw a bird early and often. We love our vegetarian bird.
Hopefully he'll get Ken Hovind's DVD series soon. Hopefully they put rush shipping on that to get that out to Bird as soon as possible.
Doorknob's like, crap, they can see us. Run. And like Kathy said, it was just a bunch of straw men. Like, I don't even know.
It's like you woke up today, I got to make a fucking video about 80. What am I going to do?
Was it a dead link? Did I do it again? I'm pretty sure. I think. Hold on 1 second. I changed it before.
You did it again, yeah.
Did it again. I changed it, but I actually prepared it beforehand.
Did it again. Sing it, Amy.
Try that. Play with your heart. I lost in between. Can't sing it good if you don't know.
Don't go chasing this.
Don't go chasing this. Only follow the syllogisms.
Darth Dawkins is back. All right.
One gerb. Had one gerb.
One job,
Like
Amy.
most
That's
things.
it.
Deep, dark things. Do you know where you keep those deep, dark things? You keep them tightly in your... Anyway, we're about to be moving into the open mic as we got Big
A
Bird.
vegetarian bird back
That's
there.
right, baby. Woohoo! But if you just joined us, we are Midnight Ranting on our God Deniers missing out. It is something we have heard before from other theists, creationists, however you want to paint it. So we're trying to figure out what we are missing out on as we roll into our Midnight Ranting open mic. I see Bird, I see Amaretto and Pat, but Bird, what is the word? We are Midnight Ranting on what God Deniers are missing out. I hope you're doing good, and what do you think of all that wisdom?
That was it was amazing. I'm convinced it's that easy, you know?
You've been missing out, Bird.
I've been missing out. Look outside. Okay, awesome. That's it. You know,
Look at the dog shit.
Look at the yeah. Oh man, I just that's all I gotta say. How are y'all doing?
Doing pretty good. Seeing a little bit of craziness, but besides that, doing pretty good.
I mean, but I will say this, and he was nice about it, you know. He wasn't like Bob Larson, so that's kind of good, I guess.
He had almost a TV news anchor kind of way of saying it.
Very much.
I think he's worse than some of the other. I think he's worse than some of the other videos. But
that's true. We just found him, or at least James just introduced me to him. So I think this is going to be one of a new series. Where,
he's got a whole cornucopia of bullshit.
Whole cornucopia, I know. I was looking at some of those videos. He's full of nonsense. Good production values. Thank you for being a lawyer. Wish you could use the money towards better purposes. But thank you so much, Bird. And all right, we'll be going into open conversation after we get in everybody. But the witch of the channel, apocalyptic witch herself, Amaretto. We have been, and as an animal lover yourself, I just have to think you know this whole thing was nonsense, but I won't put words in your mouth. We have been Midnight Ranting. Our God Deniers missing out.
No, I think it's kind of bullshit. You know, from a theist perspective, for me, part of the reason I can find the beauty in things, and I think, you know, definitely things are connected. But I would wager an argument that the Christian God especially does not have an appreciation for the beauty of the world, because remember, everybody, he destroyed the world.
Yeah, multiple times.
So I would also argue that kind of argument is bullshit, because then why did your God just see evil everywhere, and your God couldn't see beauty, and like your interpretation of whatever deity couldn't see beauty?
They were all evil, Amaretto. They were just all bad. Yeah.
So I think that's I think that's likely to be bullshit. Yeah. And I think cats can definitely appreciate beauty. I mean, listen, you know, I made a comment in the chat, you know, I'm sure dogs can appreciate beauty. Like they probably just don't know. Animals just don't have the same concept of beauty. I mean, listen, we don't get we don't see the beauty in sniffing another companion's bort hole, but you know what? They do.
Right.
So, you know, cats see beauty in movement. I'm betting you. Yes, it's a predatory instinct, but you know, at some level, they also probably think that there's beauty in that. You know, people take their pets to the beach all the time, and the pets enjoy it. So for someone to claim that, you know, a lack of belief in the Christian interpretation of God means you can't appreciate beauty is bullshit, because, I mean, I'm an artist as well. that's kind of my bread and butter. You can appreciate art and beauty and the things in the world. And I'm going to wager a hardcore claim that as far as nature and things of that, aspect of beauty goes, I would say your pagans, your Wiccans, your old religion followers probably have a greater sense of appreciation and beauty for nature than your average Christian in the United States. So yeah, fuck his shit. That's pretty much it.
Amen.
So short and
Get
sweet.
the strap
We love
on,
it.
Amaretto.
Yeah. Time for some pagan.
I was gonna say probably more the opposite around. But yes.
Yeah, I mean the strap-on's not. Amy has left me, so my strap-on's not going to get any use. So tear.
Single tear.
No, send a love to Amaretto. And we only have one more person before we go down into the open conversation. But Pat, we are Midnight Ranting. Our God Deniers missing out. How are you
I'm probably going to
doing?
surprise you with.
Well,
Well, I'm doing good. I'm doing good. My answer is probably going to surprise you, but my answer is yes. Those that don't believe in God are missing out on certain things. We kind of, in many ways, atheism is a self-imposed separation from the larger body and community which we live in. Skepticism is not necessarily a bad thing, but there are certain things that come with our skeptical and non-religious and non-God worldview, right? We miss out on certain social and familial activities, right? We miss out on certain cultural traditions, right? So I would say yes, we miss out on things. But no one's missing out on an afterlife because an afterlife doesn't exist. No one's missing out on supernatural interference or miracles in your life because miracles and supernatural causation doesn't exist. But on a cultural level, sure, being an atheist is to, in some ways, remove yourself from a larger cultural group, which, as a social species, sometimes is a form of self-imposed monasticism. And I use that term specifically. You live apart in a world where ultimately, as our group increases in number, we'll become the majority and we'll miss out on less and less. But for the time being, we're not the majority, and those that believe in some type of divine being that is magically waiting to receive them in some celestial realm is the majority. So until then, yeah, atheists will miss out because we won't be part of a larger whole in certain aspects of our society. That's it.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so very much, Pat. And okay, with that, we are going to switch into open conversation. We're going to go for about hour of open dialogue. Oh, we got Will in. And then we're going to be wrapping up and heading to the Discord. But Will, we are Midnight Ranting and our God Deniers missing out. I hope you had a good night tonight or having a good night tonight. And what are your thoughts?
I was hearing a little bit of an echo. Now I'm hearing even more echo.
Echo.
Yeah, I didn't get to. I missed parts and pieces of the first half of the video, but by listening to the people who have come on, I've kind of garnered the concept of the individual that you are watching. And would I say that you guys are missing something? Well, I mean, Pat said that what I would say you're missing isn't factual. But as far as like here on earth, no, I mean, there's the doctrine of common grace. You can experience love and joy and happiness and marriage and art and music and all of those things. That's part of God's common grace. So, that's my intro.
Woo-hoo! Thank you so very much, Will. And all right, everybody, we're Midnight Ranting on our God Deniers Missing Out. And this is our deck for the night as we have some fun. Yeah, that video was interesting. Oh my! I think we're gonna have a new friend to talk
To
about.
say the least.
Yeah.
I am curious though as to why Big Screen Bird is all of a sudden flex tape. Did he get a new job or?
Oh, that's for another stream. My bad.
I thought you were promoting flex tape or something like that.
Oh no.
He's their new spokesperson.
Yeah.
Big
Crickets.
screen flex tape.
Big screen flex tape.
So,
And yes,
what'd you think of that video, Will?
Like I said, I didn't see
okay.
most of it, but I mean, break it down. I mean, what were his specific points, and what was he saying that non-Christians?
We can't appreciate beauty, art, music, stuff like that, mainly.
he was
But
using
what
an
was his
example
reason?
how a dog cannot understand a painting, and so just like
Yeah.
that, if you don't have God, you can't really understand beauty.
Yeah. But he didn't.
Okay.
He didn't go into any specifics about anything. That's what was. We're like, what? What are you talking about?
Just asserting we can't appreciate it because we can't.
Right.
Yeah, I would say that. I mean, theologically, there would be positions where you could say that, for instance, you know, a marriage outside of Christianity would be different than one inside of Christianity.
In what way?
Just in the way that it's really hard to explain. That what the meaning of love is not a feeling or emotion, but a more of a covenant. One musician said that it's kind of like accepting the annoying things rather than expecting someone to treat you in a particular manner. But I don't know that that's necessarily exclusive. But I mean, would you guys say that in a relationship like that you're owed something?
No, not at all. I mean, I don't feel my wife owes me anything.
That's good. Hey.
Anybody else?
I mean, I think it depends. I think in a relationship, you're owed proper communication and, you know, open and honesty. But, you know, that's just kind of, I think that you're not necessarily entitled to a lot of, you're not necessarily, there's a difference between owed and entitlement. So it gets complicated when you're talking about relationships, because what's ever easy when you're talking about a relationship, right? So.
Well, it's definitely easier if you have two people that agree. If you have one person that doesn't agree, then that's a battle.
Yeah. No, I mean, and sometimes you have one person that goes and does their own thing and doesn't tell the other person, and or you know, there's a breakdown in communication. There's a breakdown in what's a priority, a breakdown in a whole lot of different things. So, you know, I think it's, you know, and that's the thing, like people change too. People and priorities and what you want in life also changes. So, I mean, that's a complex question to kind of,
Yeah.
you know, and it's, every relationship is different.
Yeah, it's just like for me, it's like I'm not owed anything.
Right. I would agree with that.
Yeah. So,
Well, like, I think it depends too on the terms of the relationship. Like, if we're talking like in terms of BDSM and stuff like that, then I mean, there's definitely, typically in BDSM and in other relationships like that, there's, you know, you might be owed, I think, a little bit more if in the terms of the relationship, you know, because I think, you know, for people like Amy and I, who, you know, Amy is an atheist, I'm like theist light. I guess.
Yeah. I love how you claim that you just get less and less and less. I love it.
I mean, like, I'm a Unitarian. Like most of the Christians wouldn't even consider me Christian, even though the Unitarian Universalist Church, you know, does have tenets of parts of Christianity in it. But, you know, things like BDSM it's a very serious thing. And so, like, if there's lack of communication there, like, things just can't work. So I'd say, like, you know what, on some levels, like, a marriage, I'd say a BDSM relationship is a lot more intense than a marriage sometimes. You know, so I'd say, like, you know, you're not necessarily owed a partner's, like, there, you know, certain things that, you know, would put them in bodily harm or anything like that. But, you know, you are supposed to be able to have, like, a certain level of trust with somebody.
Absolutely.
So, like, for me as a top, I can't collar somebody if I don't have a certain level of trust and communication with somebody. So, but you're not entitled to, like, somebody's body. Like, you can be in a BDSM or a marriage or some kind of higher level of commitment relationship with somebody and still be sexually assaulted. In fact, most sexual assaults happen, are perpetrated by people that know the victim. And in some cases have intimate contact with the victim. And by intimate, I say, like, not just like partners, but like family members, members of the clergy at their church, all sorts of, you know, when I say intimate, it's like people that they can be close with, not just necessarily like, you know, in a sexual sense or romantic sense. But, you know, that's definitely a thing that happens. So.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's a little bit different than that. In that, like, for instance, if I can't think of a particular situation where I would say that just because my wife did A, B, C, and D, therefore I can divorce her. For me, I believe that it's a covenant. It's not simply just a relationship and where I'm doing X, Y, and Z. Now, this format in unperfect people who I would say are not Christians is very dangerous, right? But it doesn't necessarily say that it's any less appropriate for someone who's not an animal. But
you remember we did a video maybe about 2 or 3 months back where we analyzed a Christian who went to a Christian high school pretending to be an atheist and to see what the students would say. Yeah. And one of the girls commented to him like, are you married? Like, how can you love your wife if you don't believe in God? Because, you know, in the New Testament, Jesus talks about marriage and love and compares that to God and everything. But if you don't believe in God, then you can't love your spouse the same way. And even he was like, you know, no, that's not a good look for Christians to say that, you know, an atheist can't really love their spouse or their children because they don't believe in God. That's a silly thing to make.
No, I remember that. And I would agree with that position. And two, that was the one where the guy was in the gym and he was pretending to be an atheist, right? Or something like that. Yeah.
The Christian apologist.
Yeah. But I mean, for me, and what this could just simply be the way that someone categorizes it or something. But I mean, I'm called to love my wife like Christ loved the church and give myself up for her, and that has far deeper meanings than just the words on the page there, right? That makes me have to go back and look at Jesus's ministry and the way that he and what he did for his church.
For the church, yeah.
And I'm called to do that, which is, and people get hung up on, well, it's wives submit to your husbands. To me, that seems like it's easy to submit to someone, right? I submit my will to the United States government. I submit my will, you know, if I was in the military, I submit my will to my boss. You know, I do all submission's easy, but being called to love your wife like Christ loved the church and to give yourself up for her, I think that's a far tougher thing to do. Right?
So go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, because like submission, I don't hold to a position of submission being, you know, if I tell her to make me dinner, she makes me dinner, right? It's simply submitting to my leadership in the same way that I submit to my boss or I submit, you know, to the government or I submit to any authority that's over me, I do it out of respect for them, right? That's the way that the relationship is supposed to be. Now, granted, like I said, in a system with people who aren't truly, I would say, aren't truly saved, this can be a very dangerous piece of information, right?
Yep.
Because it can be used and abused outside of its intent. And, you know, it's definitely a two-way street, but it's, for me, I just think of it as, and so I don't think that people who aren't believers necessarily think of their marriage in that way. There may be similarities, right? But they're not, you know, I don't know many husbands who aren't believers who are worried about, you know, am I treating my wife like Jesus would treat me?
Right.
No, I definitely don't do that because I don't think Jesus is real. So
well, there you go.
Not in those terms, but again, on the other extreme of that is the people who would say, well, you just don't believe in God because you want to be able to go out and cheat on your wife without feeling guilty about it, which is
there are some
a really
preachers,
silly thing to say.
There are some preachers who would tell you that that's
who have been known to run a little bit astray from their spouse. And so Christians cheat, atheists cheat. It's not restricted to one category. It's just, So
is there anything your wife could do where you would divorce her, Will?
Oh, it's a tough question, man.
Really?
In my head, I would say, I'm sure I could find a lot of reasons. But theologically, and while I could get away with pulling a theological, you know, pulling out my theological magic wand and say adultery would be one.
Yeah.
There are even incidences in the Bible where God has called men to marry prostitutes. So don't even know if that one necessarily falls.
The New Testament is pretty limited in scope of what it'll allow for divorce. And I mean, I remember because even when I was separating from my son's mom, I was still a Christian at the time. So I was having to wrestle with that because, at that point I was still a Christian and, you know, because she dismissed her petition. So then could I go ahead and file a petition because then I'm the one instigating the divorce? And, you know, it just opened up a whole bunch of questions. And,
yeah.
It's definitely not. It's definitely not something that's an easy answer, right? It would have to be very situational.
Right, I got you.
And
I just
would depend on a lot of context.
Okay, I got you.
The lesser of the evils, you know, at that point.
I don't mind talking about it, but I mean, it's, you know.
Oh yeah, no, I just didn't think you meant that there's nothing she could do. I don't think that's what you meant. So I got you.
Yeah.
And so I'm actually gonna get Mark in.
Oh, hi, Mark.
Well, hi, Mark. How are you tonight on this lovely evening / probably morning for some people? Hope you're doing well, Mark. And we are Midnight Ranting and
hi, Mark.
Deniers missing out.
Oh, I did not hit her. I did not. Oh,
I did not hit her. I did not. It's so good to see you all. I really wanted into this discussion because that kind of you're missing out. And I want to push back on something Pat said, but I'll leave that for a little bit later. First off, the one thing that I really wanted to talk about was the pearls before swine thing. And I was thinking about this the other day because somebody sort of said it in Discord, and I was like, why does that irritate me so much? So I was looking why does that make me just, when people say that, it just makes me absolutely furious. And I'm like, why is that? And I think it's for a number of reasons, not only just that it's baseline insulting, sort of comparing you with swine, even though it shouldn't be. I think one of the panel pointed out that swine are actually quite intelligent. So, you know, being compared with swine as opposed to the flock of sheep, like most of the people that use that expression like to be compared to, I would probably rather be a pig with that level of intelligence. But the problem is that it kind of assumes that what they're giving you is true and correct and a wonderful thing to begin with. So it's sort of poisoning the well straight off the bat. They're saying, hey, this is a wonderful thing that we're trying to give you already. without demonstrating it. Like it could be a hot turd for all we know. So the whole idea of saying, hey, we're casting pearls before the swine sort of says, well, these are pearls. It's like, well, we've got no demonstration that what you're saying is true, correct, or even should be considered even remotely true. So I think that's the main thing that irritates. It's the presupposition that it is true and correct. And the guy was sort of just pointing out things, and I love what everybody said about animals can appreciate art, and I wanted to bring up that elephants do art and they love their paintings. They absolutely adore them, and I think that the whole idea that animals can't tell what's beautiful and what's not. Well, get out a leash, ask your dog if it wants to go to the park, and then take it to the vet, and you'll see how much a dog can differentiate between something it likes and something it doesn't like. It can absolutely determine that, hey, the park is fun, beautiful, happy place to be, and the vet is a terrible, terrible place it does not want to be in any stretch of the imagination. And to put back on Pat, when you said sort of that we're missing out on certain things, and maybe that's true more in the US than European countries and Australia.
Agreed. Yep.
I'm not so sure, because when you're sort of saying, hey, you're missing out on this mainstream, obviously you've got the communities and things like that, you really have to present it as, hey, there's nothing equivalent for non-theists. And I think more and more that's not the case. There are communities with, brotherhood and sisterhood and sort of a sense of belonging for non-theists. And I think that sort of going, oh, well, you're missing out on the mainstream one. It doesn't get there for me. Sorry, Pat. I think that there's nothing religion presents that you can't find an equivalent of in sort of secular support groups and secular communities and things like that. So I really wanted to clarify with Pat exactly what he was talking about with that one, because I'm not sure.
I think you can find similarities, but I don't think that they're equivocal.
Well, I don't think they're equivocal, but like when you have similar things with similar outcomes, if you're getting one through, say, one church and another through another church, they may not be equivalent, but you wouldn't say one's missing out over the other.
Well, I mean, people in Christianity would, right? I mean, that's why there's denominational issues, right? Why people hold to a specific denomination, because they feel that somebody's missing out, right? Like, so, I mean, if you're a Calvinist, you feel the Arminius is missing out, and if you're an Arminian, you think the Calvinist is a demon. And
how do you tell who is objectively missing out? You can't. There's no way to tell that.
Well, not objectively. I would agree with that, but being in the South, and Will can attest to this, probably Pat, anybody that's lived in the South, it's so overarchingly Christian based here that you can't get away from it. Yes, there are groups, but it's not the same level as maybe that you're used to. It's literally everywhere, and it's shoved down everyone's throat all the time here.
But what are you missing out on?
Just the sense of community. The sense of community, because being an atheist here in the South where I live in Tennessee, it's very like when people find out, you're like, oh, you're one of those.
Yeah, like, I mean, you could lose friends at work. You could do all kinds of stuff. Yeah, it's a very minority position, right?
Yes.
Especially in the South, maybe not so much in the Northeast or something like that, or major metropolitan areas. But if you live especially if you live in a rural area in the United States, you're not going to find many.
Interesting.
So maybe probably it's just more of a cultural difference that Pat was talking about. Because you go to Europe,
possibly
it's not a big deal. Like there's so many.
Well, if you lived in a major metropolitan area too, it's probably not that big of a deal, right?
Exactly.
Like, I mean, even if you lived in a city like, say, Atlanta or something like that, you're going to be able to find, even though it's in the South, you're going to be able to find communities where you can find a place to plug in and have picnics with, and have meetings, parties over at the house on Wednesday where you read philosophy books or do whatever you like to do. But and you can find that anywhere in the United States here, right? By going to a church and becoming a member and getting part of a home group and a small group and, doing all that stuff. So it gives you the opportunity to, to make friends. You immediately move somewhere new. You just find a church that, you want to go to, you plug in, boom, you've got 20, 30 friends that you can go do things with. They'll help you move, they'll help you fix your car. They'll do all these things immediately, right? Simply based on
gives
the
you connections for maybe finding jobs or work and stuff like that you can do networking.
I think that's not necessarily an atheist problem. You can also be a member of a very minority religion like Hinduism, say, for instance, and still get that same problem. I'm not convinced that's specific to atheists are missing out rather than sort of people as part of,
But I think in the video he was talking about atheists
are actually missing out on. He was specifically saying atheists, I thought.
I think there is a somewhat of a stigma against atheists. I mean, not that most people care about it, but even an organization like Freemasonry, where you can't join if you're an atheist. You can believe in any religion and join, but I mean, that's just one example.
All right, I will concede you're missing out on Freemasonry. Okay. I guess it's something,
But even now, there are splinter Mason groups that are admitting atheists now, which is, now we can be part of the Illuminati too.
And I didn't mean to steal man you, Pat. If you wanted to clarify, you can.
No, but that's exactly my point. I'm sorry, I had a bookshelf collapse, so I've been dealing with that. I put one too many books on it, and it tilted over.
Too much learning.
You should have just had the Bible on there.
You just need to burn some more of them. You just need to burn some more of them, Pat. Just burn them.
Yeah,
just put a Bible there. It's got everything you need to know.
It does. That's basically my point. Is that in the United States, so many of our communities are based around religious identification, and then you have the added component of cultural identification through religion as well.
Yeah.
I mean, so there are those issues. For example, I mean, whether or not you want to be the kind of atheist, and this is this isn't a derogatory statement, but if you're the kind of atheist that goes to like someone's baptism, right? Family member being baptized, and you have no qualms about going to church and passively participating in a religious ritual. I mean, there are those liminal familial transitions too that you may miss out on in the United States. So your nieces and nephews, confirmation or recognition if you're Jewish of certain transitional age related stuff. I mean, that those are all cultural identifiers. So I think you do atheism. I know people that don't invite atheists to things because it is, if you don't believe in this, then you probably shouldn't go. Right. But whether or not that's how your family or your group rolls, that's something that each person has their own experience with. But maybe Australia is different, but in the United States, the pervasiveness of religion and religious expression at the community level is quite extensive.
But there are
politics and.
Well, I've got to push back a bit because there are events, and like I was looking into going to a meetup for Western Australian atheists and skeptics, where you could argue that somebody of religion would miss out on that event as well.
I could go. I was invited to better.
Well, sure. I mean, you're welcome to go, I suppose. Yeah. I mean, I don't know of any that would
I mean,
say...
if I was like a street preacher or something, I don't think they'd invite me to go. But I mean, if you're a reasonable, nice person and they don't mind your company.
I'm sure they wouldn't. But I guess I'm saying there are events that you have more access to as an atheist, as few of those events might be.
I mean, there's no one's going to. Well, at least I hope. I'm sure there are people there, but hopefully not too many Christians are at porn conventions or sex worker conventions or something like that, right?
What's wrong with that, though?
Nothing's wrong with it. I'm just saying they're probably not there.
A lot more than are willing to admit it. Right?
That's what I was saying. That's why I corrected myself shortly after saying it.
I would almost say probably the majority of them are.
Actually, come to think of it, isn't it hard to get into politics over there as well if you're an atheist?
Yeah,
It's extremely hard,
Hmm.
extremely difficult. Ask Arn Ra. He's been trying forever.
Religiosity is a huge cultural standard in
It's
the
king
United
here.
States.
Yeah.
Like,
I do need to clarify though that lust is a sin in whatever form it comes.
What?
So says you.
Yeah, I have to throw
I
that
know
out because I'm gonna get clipped saying no, there's nothing wrong with that.
Okay.
So it's gonna hold me to
So,
the
so you didn't feel any lust for your wife before you married her? It's a strange thing.
Did I feel any lust for my wife before I married her?
Sure.
Well, I am a Calvinist, so I would say that she was predestined to be my wife in the first place. But no, it's not. Lusting for your wife is okay, right?
But she wasn't your wife at the time, right?
That's true. So that's a good question.
Stir.
I didn't have sex with my wife before we were married.
Mandatory sin.
That's,
you didn't?
No.
That's not what I asked.
But lust and sex are not the same thing.
different.
Right,
Mark asked
I
a
didn't
very
do that.
specific
But
question.
lust. Did I lust
Right.
for her? Yes, I was attracted to her. I'd have to
Right.
see you. Yeah. That's a good question.
There, being
It's
a man.
an excellent question because I love Will and I'm not going to throw him under the bus, but I'm not
I
going to
will.
make him answer. But if he didn't picture his wife naked before he married
Oh
her,
yeah.
I would doubt that because I know how men think, and
Yes.
and Will was not. Will was a worldly man at one point. So
Look, I don't
lust
think
is
lust
lots
is the default says.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that at all. Like that's my position. But,
Neither do
you know,
I. Neither do I.
I lusted heavily after my wife before I was married to her. I'll put that one out there.
Hell, I've lusted after Mark's wife. Just kidding, bad joke.
Well, I'm
Nice.
not
Nice.
denying that I didn't. What I'm pondering is whether
Wow,
that's
Pat.
sin or not. That's what I'm curious as.
Well, according to the preacher,
But-
no, it can't.
Well, there you go. The preacher would say no, it's not. But for me too, I'd say even if it was, I was forgiven for it, and I married her, so we're good.
No, it's just that simple.
Yeah.
Oh,
But God
okay.
also made you do it too, so it's kind of his fault on that level.
Yeah.
I mean, I even struggle with lust now. Like, I'd be lying if I didn't say it. If I saw a good-looking woman, that I'm not like, ooh, look at that, right? But yeah.
No, I think we veered away from the subject. And while we're on like sort of lust and stuff, like can I just point out that all of these things like paintings and stuff, like beauty and the fact that you can't appreciate beauty if you're an atheist, whatever that means, beauty is subjective anyway.
100%.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
So it's kind of odd to say, well, these things are beautiful, and if you don't find them beautiful, then or atheists can't find them beautiful. And it's like, well, beauty's all subjective anyway. So,
Right.
So what if you don't find open meadows and stuff beautiful? I wouldn't expect people to. You might have other ideas of what tells beauty, and that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. It just seems very narrow to say, hey, fall into this narrow category, everybody. It just seems wrong to me. I just don't understand it. I mean, a lot of people. Who's the artist? Oh God, the Melting Clocks guy. Salvador Dali. He did a lot of things that I think were very, very beautiful in a very macabre way. Has everyone heard of Salvador Dali?
Yeah. Go ahead. You're talking my language now.
Yeah. So he did some sort of really weird abstractions. At one point, he was really fascinated with death and made a lot of macabre paintings. All of them sort of beautiful, but in a very, very dark way. And some people hate his work, think it's absolutely revolting.
Yeah.
I think it's beautiful, but some people disagree, and that's fine. That's good. I've got no problem with that at all.
Yeah, for whatever reason, paintings, don't tickle my fancy.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, it's
For a
one
guy
of those
who's a
things-
graphic designer, that seems weird. But
A little, but that's okay. That's what I mean. That's the whole point. Your beauty's subjective. You don't have to find something.
Well, it's not even that I'm too subjective. It's just the way my mind works, right? Like I get really annoyed
That's okay.
when I walk down the street and I see a sign with the wrong color scheme. It annoys me. Like it really annoys me. Like when I design something for somebody who doesn't know anything about design, they're like, "Yeah, I want lime green with purple," and I'm like, "Okay, which you mean like a neon green?" They're like, "No, lime." And I'm like, "Well,
Forest green.
Yeah.
what do you mean lime green?"
Meadow
So
green.
limes have like 4 different colors on them. You have to pick one,
Money
right?
green. Purple
And then
dollar.
2, they'll pick the one that clashes with purple because not every color of green goes with purple. There's only a few colors of green that go with purple, shades of green that go with purple, and stuff like that bothers me. I don't know why.
What were we gonna say, Pat?
Well, I was just gonna say, luckily, we judging is something we're not going to do, Will. But in the end, God will judge. So, I mean, we're one up on him there. So.
Yeah, I'm a weird bird like that.
Hey, come on, man.
I didn't
And
say
by the
big
way,
bird. I said weird bird.
Don't be dissing birds.
An advertiser would say that conflicting colors cause a certain psychological reaction for people to remember the advertisement. So
Sometimes,
I
yep.
mean, maybe your graphic design is actually less prone to.
If you're doing it intentionally
Like the
for one purpose,
entrenchment.
if it's continual though, it's distracting and can actually repulse and cost sales.
It can.
It has to be
All about
targeted
how
and
it's used,
intentional.
right?
You're correct. Fonts are the same way, right? But it has to be not very frequent and intentionally purposed to get a result. But that's why most logos you see have the same colors, because colors in psychology have a very big impact on people.
Yeah, they do.
Look at the trees.
Look at the trees.
Yeah, art is
People like
one
green.
of those things where I have a huge love and a huge hate for it at the same time. I know it sounds weird, but like the expensive
Modern
art
art.
market is so odd. It's something that I understand it, but I have no clue what it means. Why this painting by a guy named Twombly is going to sell for $40 to $60 million when it circles and smudges on a huge canvas. To me, I'm like, I that's so dumb, but it's all subjective, and someone's going to pay that much money for it.
I'm with you, Big Bird. Like I can go to classical and Renaissance art and just be like
Yes.
odd.
Yep.
But I go to I've tried to do some postmodernism, and it's like, wow, I just kind of look at it. I don't understand abstract art. That's my limitation, right? So, but that's not an imitation on the art form. It's Pat's limitation, right?
Right.
I don't know. You'll sort of. I mostly agree with you, but occasionally you'll see a piece that does evoke strong emotions, and that's really makes it all worth it for me when I see a sort of piece that you just go, "Wow, that's actually encapsulates the sort of feeling of living in this modern world very neatly, and it's stimulating those emotions that I really appreciate. So I don't know much about art, but I know what I like.
And that's
Right.
really all that matters, is something that you can look at and say, oh, okay, I kind of get what he was going with. When I first saw Jackson Pollock's, I didn't understand it until I tried to paint like that. And it is very difficult. Like, you can say, well, you want, I can do that yourself, but you didn't.
Mm.
That's the whole point to it.
My
Number-
favorite painting
you
is
can do it.
my favorite painting is Evard Munch, The Scream. I think that is
It's a
sort
great
of
one. Yep.
Oh, it just the first time I saw it, it just was like, it was just such a reflection of some of the feelings that I was going through at the time. That was absolutely gorgeous, which was stolen apparently and never recovered. Crazy.
And for me, I'm more auditory, so like music, I can really get into
Sure.
music.
That's art too. Yeah.
Yeah, but art for me, like paintings wise, I like if it looks good, I'll say, "Oh, that's a nice painting," right? But it's not like it draws any emotion out of me. It's not like I'll just go to an art gallery and look at paintings on the wall and have a little tear
So-
roll down my cheek or anything.
Just
Would
haven't
you-
seen the right ones, to be honest.
Will, would you feel the same? Like, could you sort of imagine the frustration if someone said to you, hey, because you're a Christian, you can't fully understand how good music is?
Right.
Yeah, I would.
So
But I think that's absurd in the first place, right? I do believe that there are differences, right? I'm not saying I think that the experience is different, but there are. I mean, it's common theology that common grace,
isn't it
right? So
different for everybody? Like, isn't
I heard
how
a
do you
good
even
I heard a
compare
good
that?
I heard a good analogy today, right? That
Okay.
kind of makes sense for me, and that I'm a human just like
Yeah, that's
you're a
debatable.
human.
That's debatable.
And I mean, we could debate if you like. But
Bird is a bird.
I'm a monster.
Yeah.
Apparently, I'm a monster.
Yeah.
But if you can think of it as like if it's a like a saw blade, and the if you're not a Christian, this is from our worldview, right? The saw would be straight, and if you weren't a Christian, it would be slightly skewed, right? They both cut. They're both saws, but they cut in different ways. And I would say that theologically that would probably be the closest, because we have different intentions, right? Our intentions are different. So because the intention is different, they're the same. They're both doing the exact same function. You're enjoying music in the way that I enjoy music, but the intent and the response is different. Does that make sense?
How would you tell if two people had the same intent? Like exactly the same intent? Language is such a bad descriptor for feelings and emotions. Like,
Right.
How could you tell that two people have the same intent? Or do you just take that on?
Well, we would
faith?
say that like by your fruits, right? So your works is how your faith is
Wait,
known,
but-
right?
Calvinism is not a works-based faith, correct?
Okay, so works don't save you, right? But you do
Right.
do works because God's predestined for you to do them, right? In advance, right? Ephesians 2. Right?
But what?
But whose works are identical? Don't you have different lives, and therefore your works will always be
Right, but I
not
mean,
exactly
what we
the
mean is
same?
like it's not exactly the same. Like I may help this homeless person, and the other some other guy helps one in a different state, right? But what I'm saying is that the reason that I do the things that I do is for God's glory, whereas you don't. True.
Well, okay.
Your
so you
intent isn't
say
to do
it's
it-
for God's glory. Well,
I mean,
no.
that's my intent,
Right.
right? I mean, I think it's fairly obvious now. We've known each other for a
So
while.
I have an art question to ask. When an artist from a Christian, I mean, I think I know what the answer is, but from a Christian worldview, when an artist paints, does the artist paint or does God paint through the artist?
Oh, that's a great question, and
I missed
it
it.
would
'Cause I
all
was reading.
it would all depend on what the artist says.
What was the question? I like fun questions.
When an artist paints, does an artist paint or does God paint through the artist from a Christian worldview?
Can I give an example, Pat?
Sure.
There was a guy in Amarillo, Texas, where I've lived previously, and he is. I can find him on the interweb, but he would go out to his wood shop, and he would paint in the dark with paints that he lined up. So he knew the colors, but he didn't. He knew how big the canvas was. He said he would paint in the dark, and he would paint upside down. One of his most famous paintings was Jesus looked like a crucifixion, and so that I say is, I just have to go off what you say. There's no evidence that that's what happened or what have you, but he says it was God painting through his fingers. So, I guess.
Yeah, that's difficult for me to grasp. Like I don't. I think
So
that
I've heard stories like that before.
So the love of God and the Holy Spirit can inspire you to do things, right? That's like when the text. Like I don't believe that even God wrote the Bible with His own hand, right?
Well, we know he did.
But He inspired men to write, right? And they wrote what they felt they were being led by the Holy Spirit to write. And the books that God wanted to keep were kept, and the ones that weren't faded off into history, for the most part, until we dig them back up again. Thanks, Pat. I'm blaming Pat. No, I'm just kidding.
I just introduced Will to textual criticism. So he's jumping down that hole.
Yeah. Yeah. So, do I think that God is if I close my eyes, is God painting what He wants me to paint? No, because I think that's almost like I'm testing God, right? But if I'm painting with my eyes open and I'm painting and I'm inspired to paint something, and that painting, then God uses that painting in order to accomplish His will. Yeah, He's caused me to paint that painting, right? He's determined for me to create that painting. I've consciously painted that painting, and He's used that painting in order to speak to someone else to accomplish His purpose, right? That
Used will to
me,
accomplish His will.
Yes. Used will to accomplish will.
But does that devalue the actual artist in this scenario? The actual talent?
No.
If talent's from God,
God's given him the talent. We would glorify God for
but-
that talent then. Yeah.
So how does a
but-
atheist painter come up with paintings that might be superior to a Christian one? Why does God
Well, in
bless
fact, a lot of
inspire
secular
them?
art is far better than Christian art. Maybe not in like the
yeah, especially
old sense.
especially with music.
I'm talking recently, right? Well, it's because the topics of a Christian music isn't necessarily appealing to you, right? The chords and some of the music is just plain bad. I'll be honest.
Well, it's not plain bad. It is bad.
Yeah, that's plain bad.
I played it for 12 years. It's horrific. It's 4 chords, and that's about it. And I get all the arguments is because you're supposed to usher in the Holy Spirit, blah, blah, blah. But have a little bit of fun with it, man. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
That was
not
always
me.
the part
Well,
about
for music,
church I
though,
hated the most was the fucking music.
Yeah.
I've gone to a different kind of church that has
Well, it's
pretty
Pentecostals.
decent,
Pentecostal.
pretty decent. Yeah, Pentecostal's very organ-y. And I'm
Yeah,
just not into
Black
that, 'cause-
Pentecostal is what I
Well,
play.
I guess that the point that I'm making is that inspiration from God
Mhm.
doesn't seem to be as effective as having actual talent and technique.
Say that again, Mark?
Sure.
Inspiration from
Mark, I think-
God doesn't seem to be as effective.
God-inspired people tend to be the worst people. Just so you know.
Well, I would counter Mark as the fill-in apologist is that
All right.
even the atheist's talent is given them by God. So
Yeah,
really, even when
exactly.
an atheist does something, it is
God
Objection.
predestined them.
And I've always
Objection.
found that as a
Facts
really
not in evidence.
I've always found that as a disingenuous. Oh, I agree. But I always found that as like it devalued the work of the artist, right? If we assume that, it's
Sure.
like sports, right? A great athlete's a great athlete because they're either a great athlete or God gave them talent. Which is it? Is it all the work, time, and effort they put in it, or is it because God predestined them and gave them talent?
Gave them the
that
desire. I'm gonna
otherwise
tell you
they
right
would
now.
not
As a kid, like I always thought, like for me, I was a decent athlete growing up, but I never had the drive. I never had that drive, right? The absolute desire and drive for it. My oldest son has that drive, and it is absolutely crazy. It's crazy. He's losing it now that he's going through puberty, but as a kid, he had it. Like I've never seen a 13-year-old kid literally get a planner out, write down his day, what's he
Right.
gonna do, go out, what drills he's gonna train today, how many hours he's gonna train, wake up at 6 o'clock, go run, do the things he did. Like it was
Brett
ridiculous. Like I've
Brett
never.
Kavanaugh.
Why does Brett Kavanaugh have to do that?
He
with-
had a diary when he was growing up, buddy. Brett Kavanaugh. I'm just saying.
Thank you for that, Big Screen Bird.
All right. But I'm saying, like, but so that drive, where does that drive come from?
Oh, I would say compared to like
It's not me or
genetic-
my wife, because we're the most two disorganized people you'll ever meet.
Genetics.
like when somebody gets has an accident or medical condition, they tend to thank God more than they thank all the doctors and nurses
Right.
and paramedics
Yeah.
who came to save them, because at the end of the day, they went to school and they've been practicing medicine for all these years. But if God wanted them to die, they would have died. So
Yeah.
ultimately, you have to thank God first and foremost.
That annoys me. That really
Yeah.
annoys me.
And Mark, that right there is so pervasive here in the South that you literally can't get away from it. That's kind of what Pat was saying earlier.
But
Oh,
see, like,
praise-
so what is
praise God.
like you asked me before, right? you asked me before, how would you feel if someone said that you couldn't see beauty or do whatever?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So when I'm giving a story that's a very, very good story of my son, there's no connection between me and my wife, and then you're like, well, maybe he's autistic, right? How do you think that makes me feel, right?
Who said that?
No, but that's what I'm saying, because where did he get his personality from? His desires to do the things that he did that could be viewed as obsessive compulsive. Yeah.
Who said he's autistic?
Okay. So, and what's wrong with being autistic anyway?
Wait, no. Who said he's autistic?
Nothing. But I'm saying I would say that that's a God-given gift.
So psychological.
And you're going to say no, it's something that's not valuable.
No, right? I said genetics. I didn't.
No, I'm not saying. Yeah, but Bird's kind of right. Psychologically, drive, motivation, and sort of determination to succeed can come from a number of different factors, not only genetic, but also sort of nature versus nurture, influences on, like as a psychological effect, on multiple different facets of somebody's life. It's sort of really simplifying things to just go, oh, they were born like that, or oh, they just inherited that. Absolutely not. But you kind of have to look at everything that they've learned in their life up until that point. It could be that they've found a role model that they, a sporting role model that they want to aspire to. They could have found that one of their friends is very overachieving and they aspire to that. There can be a multitude of different reasons people sort of go for an overachieving,
or they do it for you and your wife.
Right, and
I'm
sometimes
not a psychologist.
One child will be and the others won't. No. It's it all depends on the children, what they find to be inspiring for them, and what they work towards. Sorry, Pat, go ahead.
It's not just what's inspiring. Mark's right. Let's just say I may have a child who might be like your son, who's extremely well organized, and let's just say that mom and dad aren't as organized in our house and our maintenance, how we do things. Psychologically, organization may have been a way for, at least in my child's case, to deal with the chaos that was our household.
To cope, yep.
That they could keep their room clean and spotless, meticulous, have a schedule, be very organized, very detail-oriented, because the rest of the house was kind of chaotic given our lifestyle.
That's a good point.
We had two very different children. So we had one children who, order was the antithesis to chaos, and the rest of the house was chaotic. So in their room, order reigned supreme, not only in their room, but in how they were scheduled their life, how they addressed school. That was a psychological coping mechanism.
That also could be a form of rebellion, actually, because occasionally in younger children, they will violate the perceived traits of their parents in order to demonstrate their own emerging personality, which is all very fascinating, but I don't see any reason why a god would have to be involved.
Yeah, well, I mean, because I have 3 kids, right? And each one of them is completely different than the other one.
Sure.
Right? I mean, I got one he's not clean, but whenever he's determined to do something, when he wants to do something, come hell or high water, he will accomplish that task, and he will put in the work that's required to get there. I have another one who could give a shit.
Sure.
Right. Good grades, meh. Who cares? Right. I have another one who cares but doesn't have the desire or the work ethic in order to get him there, and so he's eternally frustrated because he wants to achieve things, but he doesn't want to put in the work to get the thing done, and so he continually disappointed in himself over and over and over again, and requires a lot of positive reinforcement and reminding, hey, good job, buddy, keep out, because that's otherwise he just, he gets stressed out and does whatever.
So what's the options here, Will? On one hand, you've got 3 children born, each with a different personality.
And they're only 2 years apart, so very close.
Sure, well, that's kind of irrelevant. Sort of with their own personality and their own genetic DNA that's inherited by their parents and their own experiences in life. Or the alternative is you had a god who decided seems to be arbitrarily to me that, hey, one kid would be good at stuff and have the determination. One kid is just not going to give a shit. And one kid is going to really, really want it, but he's going to have a struggle to have the determination to do it. To me, it seems really arbitrary and completely nonsensical to say, hey, just a God determined these three things and then just went, well, go off on your own and do it.
Yeah, because each one of them has their own gifts, right? The one who doesn't give a shit is probably the smartest out of the three. And
Sure.
I think that's why he doesn't give a shit. It's because he just gets things, right? And because he just gets things, things just come to him. He's able to understand things very easily, so he's not really concerned about, A, B, or C. The second one, so I think he's very good at music. He has this weird thing where he struggles to learn. Like you could sit there and try to teach him just a simple example: 2 + 2 = 4, and he'll freak out for an hour and a half, and then all of a sudden something in his head clicks, and now he's better at math than anybody in the house.
Yeah.
Right? Like he's just he has this weird thing where his maybe it's just anxiety or whatever gets in the way of his ability to focus and to understand what's being communicated to him. But like like with all of our kids as far as music, that particular kid in music is playing the piano for less than a year and can already write his own music, and he'll come down. He has gifts. I believe that God makes all of us in accordance for His purposes, right? To accomplish, and the reason why there's a difference is because God has a plan for each and every person in order to accomplish a specific thing in life in accordance with His will, right? Even me in my own life, the gifts and the talents and the abilities that I have, while I may not know them at the time and I couldn't empirically prove this to you or demonstrate it to you, He's used those gifts that He's given me in multiple aspects of my life.
Well, I think that I was born with certain genetic traits and certain things. Now, when you say the kids were close together, my brother and I are about 10 months apart, right? It's about as close as you're going to get. Right. I was the unexpected one. I'm the younger one. So basically, we are night and day, completely dissimilar. I'm always in questioning, always why. He doesn't give a shit, just does not care. But I can see where, like, the type of people we are and the type of sort of mind that each of us were born with and the experiences that we had going along has shaped us to be vastly different people.
So you weren't that way at like 5 and 6?
I was inquiring at 5 and 6, but I'm not the same person then as I am now.
Well, no, of course not. But I mean, your core, your base person, like I can tell you right now as a dad, my kids, when they were born, are exactly like they are today. Yes, there's been experiences and things that have added to, maybe accentuated this one and pushed that one the other way. But there's the expressions on the face of babies to now are the same.
I think that's impossible to tell. I think that me as a child, I can see the development of that mind as I've gone along and experienced things into the person that I am now. And I think that child was a formative version of who I am now, and that my brother, the child that he was a formative version of the person he is at the moment. And that inner child, we still are all that inner child. It is a facet of my personality still. When you play, when you enjoy childish things, the inner child is still there. But there also comes the responsible adult part of you and the critical parent part of you and all those other facets that are built up along the way. And most of this is known in psychology. We do have.
So you don't think you're born with a personality?
Of course I was born with a personality, but it's not as developed. When you have a child, like as a baby, you don't start off with a sense of self. You equate yourself with your mother and your parents. You think you are part of them. That sense of identity comes later, and it's the formation of the personality.
Yeah.
When you have a child, an innocent child personality, it doesn't have the same development as you get through puberty and then later in life. vulnerable child and the angry child, which you do get access to around 3 and 4.
Can I ask you a question before you go any further, before we get back?
Wait, can you hold on to that question for just
Sure.
1 sec? We're going to go for about 10 more minutes. I just want to quickly, 2 comments, because the tag me. Catholic traditionalist says you atheists are definitely missing out. The end result is that you'll not go to heaven, but instead hell.
Oh, dump and run.
I'm okay with that, because from my point of view, I would rather be on Satan's side, unless it turns out that Yahweh was like, when I said get gays stoned, he was like that and then partying. And
You're missing out on all those communion wafers.
Exactly.
And the communion one.
And then there was one other super important one.
How many calories are in a communion wafer anyway? Anybody know?
About 7.
Really? A wafer light.
I have no idea.
And then from
Asking for a friend.
Will's hatred of off-putting colors led him to his habit of violet with grape-flavored Mountain Dew. Unfortunately, this is to his detriment, as that is, in fact, the rarest Mountain Dew.
I've never even had purple Mountain Dew. Do they even make purple Mountain Dew?
Yeah, well,
Probably.
No idea.
I haven't drank I used to drink Mountain Dew habitually.
Code Red?
But
Code Red?
no, not the Code Red. No, just the regular one. And
Code Red's all right.
I've never had it. Never had it. I fail as a gamer.
But yeah, but I haven't drank it in a long time. I try to just drink water and coffee and beer now. That's what old people drink, I guess.
The good stuff.
Yeah. Blasphemous lies from
Lies from Will.
what was I going to ask again? Oh, yes. How do psychologists know what babies who cannot speak and how they experience themselves? Can you demonstrate that to me?
Yeah, so we have a number of identity tests, very similar to the one that they use for animals to see if they have a sense of self, right? You're aware that some animals don't have a sense of self. You put a mark on the animal in a mirror, and like, for instance, elephants, highly intelligent, they will realize that mark is on them, not the animal in the mirror, right? They've got an idea, hey, that's me, and that mark on the head of the animal is actually on me, and it'll wipe it off, kind of thing, right? So you can do something similar with young children to see when they actually form a sense of self of, hey, that is me, and moreover, if I can see something on me, it's on me, not the other image, right?
I mean, but does that necessarily entail what you said, though, right? That they're a part of they feel that you're a part of their mother and father?
Yeah, I can't. I remember reading
when I tickle a kid's face, they touch their face. They don't touch my face.
Yeah, and don't forget the identity thing is very, 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 very young. Like, they lose that within a few months or something. It's incredibly young. I remember reading an article on it. I would have to find it again, but just this idea that your own self-identity is only formed at a couple of months, I think it is. I would have to look it up. I'm sorry, Will, but I will try and find it for you, mate. It was a study on sort of...
Right, I still don't know how they would know that, because the baby can't tell you, and they can't read what the baby's mind. So
Well,
how do
just
they
like
know
they
what the
do for
baby's
an elephant.
thinking?
Yeah,
It's like-
so
Right. They don't know what the
Making
elephant's
logical,
thinking.
reasonable inferences, but
Right.
I guess you can't
Right.
be sure.
Using induction, obviously.
It's induction. Yeah.
Right.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
not
obviously
known.
use-
It's not demonstrated.
Right. But they use a series of stimuli test of a baby when it is, newborn, and then later on as it goes throughout time to see what it learns, right? So, what's another one that's a big one? Like object permanence, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right, that's one that they can test for. You do a peekaboo, and like if the mother, basically you do a peekaboo at a certain age, that baby will think that they have actually disappeared because they can't see the person. Whereas when it gets a bit older, it learns object permanence, that when you cover the mother's face, the baby goes, oh, but it knows that the mother will be back. as opposed to crying because it thinks the mother's permanently gone because it can't see the mother.
Yeah, I mean that goes long. That goes for a while. I mean, you're talking toddlers, right?
Sure,
So, yeah,
sure. But these are the things that we kind of test for, that we can that babies learn gradually. They learn object.
well, of course, that's
permanence.
child development. I don't disagree with child development. What I'm saying
Yeah,
is that they're
sure.
born. My kids' personalities. I mean, I was there. I cut the cords, right?
So
From the
Yeah.
day they were born,
And I don't.
they all
I don't,
had individual personalities.
Right. And from my point of view, I don't dispute that genetics and how the brain is formed has a lot to do with that a personality that a baby or a child has. I don't dispute that. However, what I'm saying is that we know that nature versus nurture, the environment and the it's sort of environmental input that you have on a child can affect its development vastly differently when it is growing up.
Sure.
So they've done research, and they've determined that you can take brain scans of people, and you can tell from people's brain scans like whether someone is inclined to be a psychopath or to have those types of tendencies. But what they found in one study that they were doing is one of the guys doing the study actually did a brain scan on him, and he was very shocked to see that his brain scan indicated a lot of those same wirings as the psychopaths have. And what they extrapolated from that is that because he had such a positive, loving, good childhood, that even though his brain was predisposed to that, it didn't function that way. It didn't wire itself that way because he had such a loving and nurturing childhood. But if you would take somebody who was in that position, who had a really, really terrible childhood and was not loved and, was subject to abuse, they could very easily turn into somebody.
Right. You have to understand what theological determinants, right? So I think their brain was made that way on purpose, right? So
they would be more predisposed to becoming psychopathic, to having less empathy for others, and
My oldest has very little empathy.
I will say about the predetermined thing, you can pretty much, I wouldn't say throw it out the window, but generally if babies don't get love within the first 3 months, they're not the same as another baby. They need love early on so they can attach to something.
So they found that babies who in disaster scenarios, so
exactly,
you might have like a room with dozens and dozens of babies in it and just a few people taking care of them, so they're basically laying around 90% of the time, except when they're being fed or changed or bathed, and then they're just put right back down, and they have significant cognitive impairments later in life.
It could also be too that parents develop as well, right? So the more kids you have, the more used to things you get. Like I jokingly, and I say jokingly because I have to, otherwise I'll get in trouble if she happens to be watching this, which she normally doesn't, that I know of. Jokingly tease my wife that she ruined our oldest son because when he was a baby, she was very protective, right? Don't touch this, don't touch that, don't touch this. It's dirty, it's dirty. Don't touch.
One.
Yeah.
But that's nothing out of the ordinary. That's
right. No, but what I'm saying is he now is kind of a germaphobe, right? He was afraid of hair for almost his entire life.
Yeah.
If when he was a baby, he used to drive me nuts. I'd have to cut his hair. He would get hair, like I'd cut one piece of hair and it would fall on him. We'd have to do it in the shower. We couldn't go to a barber because he would just literally flip out. You get one hair on the shower. He started doing that. Up until the age of probably, I want to even say like 13, he's going to kill me. I won't go into details because he'd kill me. But he does silly things that are germ related or dirty related. And I was jokingly blame my wife for ruining, whereas my other two kids don't have any of those issues because, once you get to your second and third kid, it's like, she's sticking a fork in the light socket.
From what you've been told us about your wife, Will, I think that means you're taking your life in your own hands with that one.
Yeah. Oh, Will, I've linked into
sounds like a firecracker.
I've linked in the side chat just an article on the sort of developmental stages. So they're doing mirror tests, basically. So, how children react to mirrors, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, we could induce what they're thinking, but we have no idea what they're thinking, right?
No, we have some
Sure.
idea.
I mean, yeah.
No, we have no idea what they're thinking.
They've been able to
have an idea. We can induce an idea what they're thinking.
A concept, yes.
They've been able to take like MRI scans and be able to tell what objects somebody's thinking of in their head just based on how their brain lights up under those. Like if you look at a hammer versus a flower, there will be slight variations in the.
Sure, because it triggers a different response, right? Like a gun, it's going to trigger a fear response. A flower is not, right? A puppy, a baby.
Well, I think it's even deeper than that.
Picture,
just object recognition. It's tying into
really
a part of the brain that stores what that image. I don't have a link for that, but
that
I
would
will.
Be incredible. I wasn't even aware of that. That's insane.
And our kids are faster, dude, because I'm telling you what, some of my kids have been super smart, super early, and some of them have taken longer to do all different kinds of things. So,
I love how you make it sound like you have like 30 kids.
I have 3. That's a lot, man.
Some of them have this, some of them.
I'm the oldest
How many
of 5.
kids do you have, Bud?
Me, no kids.
There you go. It's 3 more than you've got.
Pat's got kids. I think he's got 2 or 3. Pat? You got 1, don't you?
What are you doing that?
Nerd alert!
Nerd, no, I was joking. I did that on purpose. No, Nerd has 2 kids.
Nerd has 2 kids. And you got 1 kid, James?
I have 1 son, yeah.
So with 1, I mean, it's...
I have a cat.
Trust me, 1 is easy. Like, I always laugh when getting parents with 1 kid.
0 is easy.
They complain. They complain about, oh, so
More power
hard.
to you, Will. More power to you.
Wait until you have
I
2 or
think
3.
it depends on the kid, to be honest with you. I think that children is a non-equatable
Right.
sort of thing, you know. I've seen people who have 1 kid and it's just been a nightmare for them. I've seen families of, 5 or 6 and they've had a really good time. So I don't think you can sort of make comparisons.
Depends on the family, yeah. But
yeah,
sure.
Each family has its own ideal,
And okay, guys, on that, we can take this to the Discord. But for now, we are going to be moving into our outros. We have
Drop
been
your cocks and grab your socks.
Midnight Ranting. That's right, baby. On our God Deniers. Missing out. Were we late for the party? Not at all. We're going to outros.
Unleash them, Amy. Send in the mimes. Super straight.
That's right. We sent in the mimes.
Oh,
and we got Mark.
The clowns! Woohoo! The clowns! Okay. Thank you so much for having me on, James and Amy. Thank you, Will and Amaretto and Bird and Pat and all you wonderful people out there. Make sure you like and subscribe so we can be back and waste more of your time because that's what we love doing. Labor of love, and we love doing it and love having you, and you love having us, I'm sure. I'd just like to say this is kind of, I always get annoyed, just slightly annoyed when people say atheists are missing out because I can't seem to find anything that I would regret missing or, feel like I'm missing out on. And they, the things that they say, like, oh, you get to sit in church for hours on end. Yeah, no, I don't feel like I'm missing anything significant from that. I feel like there are some things that I get access to, like freedom of choices and a freedom to live my life however I choose is morally right, that I wouldn't give up. And I think that, they're missing out because they don't get the same freedom that an atheist has to determine their own life's path without sort of, thinking that an immortal being is somehow controlling them in some way. And I think that's a shame. The other thing I was sort of going to, you know what, I'll leave it for Discord. That's okay. But that's my final thought, and thank you so much for having me on. I really do appreciate it.
Boom.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you so very much, Mark. Sending love. And that's right, we're going to be heading to Discord afterwards, but we are heading to Will. We have been Midnight Ranting on Our God deniers missing out. Hope you had a good time. And what are your final thoughts?
Sorry about those Hotspurs.
Yeah, we haven't been. The last 2 weeks have been rough.
I feel you.
Are
Well,
they
God
missing?
determined
Our
they'd
God
lose.
deniers missing out? Well, obviously on the salvation part of it, yes. On the earthly things, no, you're not. You can experience love. You can have a wife. You can have kids. You can have happiness. You can enjoy art.
Beer.
You can make good music and beer. Good beer. I mean, beer's good. In fact, I think a lot of Christians sometimes miss out on more than they need to, based on goofy fundamental beliefs that aren't in the Bible. But that's a talk for a different day, where we can discuss it on Discord. But there are some things. There is a difference. It's hard for me to I like to use you guys' words, demonstrate it in an empirical way.
We're learning, Will.
But there is, and you just have to take my word for it. And we can talk about it out on Discord. Got country all of a sudden on that
Beer's
one.
gross.
Thank you so very much, Will. And all right.
Is that a White Claw?
Light sky.
Light
Oh, the blue
sky.
moon?
Yeah,
Not
blue
too
moon,
much
light sky.
Just the light sky.
Yeah,
Hard
it's like
seltzer.
95 calories. No, it's beer. It's just like a.
Oh, it is beer? Like
yeah, it's
Blue
made
Moon Light
from tangerine peel. Is the
instead of oranges.
what it's brewed with. So yeah, it's got less calories.
All right. We're moving right along. Pat, we have been Midnight Ranting, trying to find out if us non-believers are missing out on something. What are your final thoughts?
Well, like I said, you do miss out. At least that's my position, and I know Mark disagrees. But I do think that at least in America, there are some things you, by being an atheist, you miss out on, or potentially miss out on. With that said, I wouldn't change my decision at all. I mean, I think that having a rational worldview, founded in science, critical thinking, skepticism, is the better way to go through life. Whether or not you have to balance that out by giving up other things, for me, there's no choice. You know, having made this decision, I am very happy with it. I wouldn't go back to a theological worldview, even if you drug me kicking and screaming. But with that, yeah, I think it's I think there is some social commentary to be had on how, at least in the United States, and particularly in some regions of the country, how religiosity is the cultural norm. And for that reason, people who don't have a religious worldview are sometimes shunned and or marginalized, and underrepresented. But yeah, I look forward to looking at you guys in Discord. And Amy and I are planning on, the Talk Skeptic to be number 4. So look for that coming out soon.
That's right, baby. And all right, thank you
It's
so
coming.
very much, Pat.
It's
That's what
coming
he
up.
or she said.
Hello.
But woohoo, thank you so very much. And
Thanks, Pat.
Vegetarian Bird. And that's right, look forward. Talk Skeptic to Me, episode 4, baby. But yes, Bird, we have been Midnight Ranting.
He's been eating a nice plate of veggies.
Oh, so
That's
delicious. I've been eating
You
a lot
can't
of
get
hay.
enough.
A lot of hay, because that's what lions and eagles
Yay.
ate. So,
But are God deniers missing out?
I'm gonna step in and say yes and no. I'm gonna go pretty much right down the middle of Pat and Mark at the same time. I see the potential for both. I understand both viewpoints. Being in the South is a little bit different than other parts of the world, obviously, but we're so entrenched in this idea that America is a Christian nation, which is, it's true, but it's not true, because that's not supposed to not be in our government, which is, why we fight separation of church and state so often, which is, I think, a key fundamental to what this country should be. But I don't know. I think it's both. Do I feel like I'm missing out on anything? No, I don't. But I am one person, and I know other people have their own viewpoints, and I can see how being an atheist in this community can be very, like Will said, kind of the definite minority, and a lot of people don't understand it, and they have a lot of presuppositions about what you think, and that I'm gonna eat your children or whatever. It's just so silly. But yeah, that's all I got to say. I actually said something this time, Amy. You're welcome. Instead of saying
Thank you, Bird.
That's right.
But
Thank you so very much,
Bird
Bird.
speaks.
It's that big boost of vegetarian fiber.
That's right.
And all right. Thank you so much, Bird. James, I'm giving you the keys as always. Land that plane.
Now, Gizmo doesn't believe in God, but I don't think he's missing out on anything. He seems pretty happy, and I think we all. Oh yes, hi Gizmo, and I think we all can be happy too. There are things in life that you can enjoy that don't require a God. I think, there could be potentially some things that you might be close to for being an atheist, but I think in general, you're going to be okay. Life goes on. You find your own meaning, your own purpose in life, and I don't think that people who are atheists who are married, people like Big Screen Bird, Pat, Mark, I think they love their wives just as much as any Christian would love their wife. And good without God. And thanks, guys, and we'll head to the Discord.
And I couldn't have given that speech better with Gizmo. You were like, look, we get on with life. And Gizmo was like, yep, we get on with life. That's
right.
Yeah. Right, Mo?
Yay! Woohoo, kitties! All kitties accepted. And all right, I hope you all had a fun time on this episode of Midnight
Bathroom Monologues.
Oh. Our God Deniers.
Socratic gangbang.
Oh, that's right, baby.
You know what? You have that problem, Amy, when you're on the toilet and it reaches down into the water.
Oh, wow. Hello.
Yeah. That sucks.
That same kind of party. But yes. Those long nights. I just want to thank everyone on this Midnight Ranting of Our God Deniers missing out. And I think you can hear from tonight, we are clearly having a party.
Popcorn for all.
Popcorn for all. That's right, baby. Where tonight we asked ourselves the question, does not believing in a deity somehow mean we're missing out on important aspects of life? But I want to thank my co-host, James W., along with our guests, Big Screen Bird, Amaretto, Pat Lowinger, Will Stewart, and Mark Reed, along with our awesome mods.
The gang of misfits.
Scream so great. That's right, baby. The gang of misfits. Then you walk away from explosions. The people in chat, because love, and all of our lovely viewers who even make this channel possible. If you're feeling fancy and enjoyed the show, don't forget to like, follow, or subscribe. Woohoo! We're gonna hit 1,000, baby.
So close.
So close. You can taste it. Then hit that bell icon. It's what
Taste
helps
that hay.
you get reminders so we can have you here on our live streams. Come on board, baby. The internet's fine.
We got Big Screen Bird. Woohoo!
Woohoo! The one, the only. After the show, we will be heading over to the Skeptic and Ranting Discord server, the link of which is in the description below. So come join us for even more fun. Lastly, if you'd like to help us make even more fun and funny content, well, you can check out our Patreon, where we offer unique community perks at patreon.com/Amy Newman. I am Amy Newman, and we will see you all on the next adventure of Skeptic Ball Z. Good night, everyone.
Good night,
Good night,
guys.
everybody.
Meow.